Grade 790-1400.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Good looking weather on this Friday afternoon. Mostly sunny skies. It's a little bit breezy, but boy, is it nice. 78 for the high. Tonight, clear skies. Wonderful this evening. 63 for the low. The weekend, Saturday sunny. Warm it up to 84 in the afternoon. 63 and clear Saturday night. Sunday sunny, and let's pop it to 87. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Surprise! Surprise! You know, surprise parties, they can be fun, right? Well, financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you think you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Marvin Mitchell at Compass Retirement Solutions and schedule a retirement double check. Marvin and his team have been helping families plan for retirement for more than 15 years. Call 314-373-1598 to schedule your retirement double check with Marvin Mitchell at Compass Retirement Solutions. That's 314-373-1598. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Give Marvin and the team a call, 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services, investments, and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory in Missouri and in Illinois.
Lifestyles Unlimited member Lisa on how our educators and mentors share their knowledge.
The whole Lifestyles Unlimited team is just wonderful, and all the people in it is basically copying what I do so you could be successful.
Lifestyles Unlimited. Over 33 years teaching the real estate retirement roadmap. Text the word radio to 88007. That's radio to 88007. Join for just $297 and save 60%. Lifestyles Unlimited. Text radio to 88007.
Your garage door is the largest piece of moving equipment in your home. When it needs help, call the experts at Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. Their certified technicians repair all brands of doors and openers, and you can even schedule evening and weekend service. Just call 314-781-5200 and always look for the red ribbon. It's your assurance you've got the genuine, the original Overhead Door, the most trusted garage door company in St. Louis since 1926. For same-day service, schedule online at overheaddoorsstlouis.com. 314-781-5200.
As veterans, we're no strangers to helping others.
That's what we were taught, service before self.
But we do have one question for the veterans listening.
When was the last time you reached out for help?
If you or someone you know needs resources, whether it's for stress, finances, employment, or mental health, don't wait. Reach out.
Find more information at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Progressive can help you protect your home, auto, boat, motorcycle, ATV, RV, and more. And if something wasn't mentioned that you had in mind, find out if it can be covered at Progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Because it probably can be.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
Right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Oh yeah, this is the moment you have been waiting for.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom.
Annie's out. Brian and Brad are in.
Goodness sake, Ted. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
This is the Manny Fry Show.
Nice. And I'm Ryan Recker, filling in for Annie Fry. Day 2 of 5, I get to fill in for Annie. Brad, good to be with you again. Thank you for being here today and putting all of this together, because I have literally, I would say 10% of the job. You have 90% of it. I don't know what it would look like without you.
Well, thank you for that. Sometimes I feel like I'm just hanging on, but I appreciate that.
That's what it's called, a radio, just hanging on. So much.
This is true. This is what I've learned since I've started. It's just like, okay, grab a hold, hang on, and you can get through this.
Well, you were a teacher, though, before this, right?
Substitute teacher. I did some, I taught full-time for a little while. I also was lawn care.
Oh, okay.
I had a lawn care business.
Teaching's in demand, and you had the summers off, which they hate when you say that.
Yeah. What is it? The 3 best reasons to be a teacher are June, July, and August?
Yep. And you get to post a lot of teacher memes on social media that talk about how difficult your job is. That is also an added benefit to it all. So we have a YouTube chat poll every day. You put one up on the YouTube page, which you can go watch us live. I'm in my basement right now if you want to see what that looks like. What's the chat poll for today?
Well, today is Elon Musk's last day. He's leaving. Actually, yesterday might have been his last day, but he's doing a press conference with Donald Trump here shortly. And we want to know, was DOGE a success? And so we got 3 options here for you. Yes, it was a huge success. No, it was a total failure. Or yes, but there's still work to be done.
Ooh, good question there. That's on the YouTube poll. What time's that press conference? Is it?
Fox News says soon. So my guess is it was scheduled for 1 Eastern, and it will go when they're ready.
Okay. We might get lucky. We might be able to dip in a little bit to it. That might be fun to hear some of the comments. We also have the National Institute of Health Director, Dr. Bhattacharya, is going to join us in about 5 minutes from now, which is super exciting. Looking forward to that. Generally speaking, I know there's going to be people on the YouTube chat poll that want to give their comments about Elon Musk stepping down. And there's been a lot of commentaries about his legacy, what that's going to look like. I think that if you're Elon Musk, you're very much looking forward to stepping out of the government light for a moment, because I'm going to guess the amount of hate he's received, as much as he tries to play off it doesn't affect him, it probably has affected him. At that level, that scale, I don't know how, as a human being, that you'd be able to just shake all of that sort of thing off. I think the only person that can do that on the planet is Donald Trump. He's the only person capable of shaking off that much hate. But if he goes back and he works on Tesla and going to Mars and all the different aspects of that, I think he'll just be happier in general. And I hope that his legacy continues on, because it's a worthy legacy to cut government waste. And, he deserves a lot of credit for finding and rooting out all the things that he found. Now, the big question is, will they take it seriously or not? I hope that they continue to look for these things and maybe double or triple what he found after he leaves the office there.
Yeah. Looking at him, like, he kind of changed how we look at government spending. It's weird because, to me, you always knew there would be waste and fraud and abuse and all that sort of stuff, but you never really heard what exactly it was, unless, like, the odd story about somebody coming out getting prosecuted for defrauding the government or something like that would come out, but you never really saw to what extent. And his work and his efforts actually led to the closing of certain departments of the government for how much waste, fraud, and abuse was in there. And a lot of it was abuse, where they were sending money over to things and only pennies on the dollar were actually going to the cause, and then everything else was going to the organization. So I think it's been a shift in the way Americans think about waste, fraud, and abuse and looking at the government. So,
have you heard some of these Democratic leaders that said it's going to take us years to recover from all the cuts of DOGE? And I thought to myself, no, we don't. The whole point is you don't recover. The whole point is they stay off the books. You don't just continue on with wasteful spending, as in as soon as there's someone not in office named Donald Trump, that you can go back to the wasteful spending ways. That's the whole point. You're not supposed to recover from this. You're supposed to find ways to adapt to this and live under a more meager or more, let's say, responsible budget to begin with, and ultimately not making waste a acceptable thing in government, because it shouldn't be acceptable. And there was the great story up here in Michigan about Elon Musk, and this kind of goes to show you basically the unfiltered hate that they have for the guy that's really unjustified. So in Michigan, at first, when they were talking about closing some of these Social Security offices, they found one in the Lansing area, mid-Michigan, and said, okay, we're going to close this office down. So the first reports that came out, and of course, media reports in Michigan, the headlines were, oh, it's going to be terrible. All these people are going to lose their jobs. It's going to take forever. If you need something from the Social Security, you're going to be having to drive forever to get to it. And they just were talking about all these terrible things that were about to happen, closing the Social Security office. And then it was one of the nonprofit organizations, one of the independent news organizations that looked into it a little bit further. And they said, okay, let's look into this branch closing. What they found was during the pandemic in 2020, this branch went fully virtual. So they were no interactions with people. It was just done through the computer, no face to face. And they realized they were still paying the lease on the building that they weren't using for 5 years.
Yeah.
So DOGE said, that's garbage. We're going to close a branch we're not using. We're going to save, I forgot what it was, $250,000 on this closing alone, because there's no reason for us to pay a lease on a building we're not using because the services are virtual. So that came out maybe a week after all the other reports of how terrible DOGE is trying to cut your Social Security and cut this and cut that. And ultimately speaking, this is why it was designed, and this is exactly the purpose of why it should exist and why it should be continued on, because there's a lot more examples of that. And it just was automatically met with hate when it should have been met with open arms. Luckily, Republicans, most of them, met it with open arms. I look at some of these other things that were cut, and I think there's going to be some Democrats that come around to it. I think some of them are going to look at it and say, you know what, maybe he was right to cut a lot of this stuff, because I know Democrats have this reputation of loving to tax and spend, which they
Yes.
do. And maybe some of them will come around to say, well, maybe if we cut the things we don't need, then we can spend it in places we do need. And then they can make it. I think they're going to have to shift their argument, because I don't know how you can defend some of this wasteful spending. One of the other things I remember Elon mentioning was at the Department of Education. Essentially, he said, we made one simple change. If you're going to invoice us something, you have to upload a receipt with that invoice. We need to know how you spent the money. And they found that people virtually stopped sending things to be invoiced.
I remember that. Whenever all we asked is what did it, just give me a reason. And I remember him telling, I think it was on Jesse Waters' show. He's like, just tell us what it was for. He said, you don't even have to tell us the truth. He goes, and whenever we did that, people stopped. They just didn't.
Isn't that something? So even the smallest test of accountability was enough to scare people to realize that they were going to be accountable for the things that they were taking from the taxpayer. Isn't that scary in some ways that it's operated for as long as it has? And if you think about, let's say, the national debt and where it is today, it's who's to say that if, let's say, some of these things were slashed in the past, they wouldn't have found ways to spend the extra money anyway. But if you just say, okay, let's take the philosophy of when's the best time to plant a tree. 30 years ago would have been the best time, but the second best time is now. So now's the best time.
Right.
Let's do it now.
Yes.
And I hope we can do that. I know we're waiting for our guest here, and I guess part of this is government fraud, spending that is out of control when it comes to healthcare, and hopefully we'll be able to have him on here pretty soon. I think we're going to be able to arrange this in a second, but the National Institute of Health Director Dr. Bhattacharya is going to join us in a moment. You may have seen him out, but what you find too, and one of the topics we do want to talk to him about, is that the GOP, and I think a lot of people have been under heat because there's been ads running. I hear the ads running on television and radio. The ads run there too. They basically say, call your senator, call your congressman, let them know that if Elon Musk gets his way, if Donald Trump gets his way, hundreds of thousands of people will die. Like, essentially, that's the fear ads that they're running right now. And it's absolutely ridiculous. So how about we figure this out right now? Joining us now is the National Institute of Health Director, Dr. Bhattacharya. Thank you so much for joining us in St. Louis.
Oh, it's an honor. Nice to talk with you.
So we got this big bill, and part of it is looking at Medicare, Medicaid. And I got to tell you, there's been a lot of ads running on television and radio right now that are trying to scare people about government spending when it comes to Medicaid reform in the big, beautiful bill. And, it's so interesting because the fear factor alone gets people motivated, and they don't really look beyond the surface, which is kind of a shame. And maybe that's one of the things that you could do. You can tell us what exactly is going to happen to Medicaid under the big, beautiful bill.
So the thing about Medicaid, it's obviously an important program for providing health care for the poor. and the disabled. That's the purpose of it, right? But what it become is essentially, in many states, a catch-all program to provide benefits that have often nothing to do with, or at least not directly with health. And it's structured in a way where able-bodied people the states will get a larger subsidy from the federal government for able-bodied people than they will for people who are actually disabled, people who are actually really sick and poor. What the big beautiful bill is it restructures the focus of the Medicaid program so that it benefits the poor and the disabled, the people for whom the benefit was originally designed, much more. It extends the work requirements so that you actually, essentially it's actually good for people's health to work. To be off work if you are able to work is not a good thing. And so what it says is, look, if you're able to work, you should work to qualify for Medicaid. And I think all of that is actually, I don't understand the fear-mongering. I mean, I get in a sense it's politics, so I understand the fear-mongering in that sense. But as far as substantively, the way that we treated Medicaid before is more like a pure, essentially a boondoggle rather than the thing it's supposed to be, which is a lifeline for the poor and the disabled to have health care while they're unable to work. Rather than like this sort of like catch-all thing that it's going to become more like that again under the big beautiful bill.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways you can accomplish this. You can look at it and say, we need to reevaluate where this money is going and make sure it's prioritized properly, so we're at least pragmatic in the way we spend it. Another big portion of this is the Make America Healthy Again, which is, I think in some ways, for all the criticisms I've had about Obamacare, preventative type of care was something that was a big part of it. And part of preventative care is to make sure we keep ourselves healthy. And I think in the same spirit, in some ways, that's something that a lot of people can agree on. And part of the commission, the Make America Healthy Again Commission, is looking at just that when it comes to our diets and some of the things that we put in our body. And this is one of the major initiatives that you guys are putting on.
Absolutely. So the key idea and the impetus behind the Make America Healthy Again bill report is that America is not healthy. Life expectancy has been flatlined since 2012, even though we're spending tremendous amounts of money. We have vast expansions in our Medicaid program and the Medicare program and private health spending, but that has not translated over to improved health. We have chronic disease problems like heart disease. We have diabetes. We have obesity rates are among the highest in the world, and we have kids who are obese at high rates, highest in I think in American history, and that'll translate to poor, less healthy lives. We actually face a situation where we can expect our kids to live shorter, less healthy lives than we did. And so what the Make America Healthy Again report is a clarion call to do something really, to understand that that's the crisis that we face, and to change the mechanisms of how we manage health in the government so that we encourage people to be healthier. And this is an all of the above approach. So, what the food we eat, what environmental exposures we have, a call to to encourage people to do exercise, as is appropriate for them. It's kind of an all of the above kind of approach, but it leads to simple things. So for instance, should we have in our food stamp program the ability to buy sugary drinks? I can tell you as a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I would say that, and it's okay. I think we bring up these type of debates, which is worthy debates. I remember when we debated if you should be able to use your EBT card at a strip club, like people were using it at places that were totally inappropriate. So if you're talking about the health of children, and that's why you see a lot of schools rooting out sodas inside of the schools and things like that, because they realize that, hey, this isn't really great to pump a lot of this stuff into the kids nonstop. And same thing with what you're discussing here. There's some things that the government is allowing you to get for nutrition for your bodies. The intent is to give you nutrition. So are we going to put things in these bodies that are nutritious? So that's why you have to have these debates.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is we have to have real excellent gold standard science for getting the right sort of advice and guidance to people, right? So we've had, a generation of the food pyramid, and what's it resulted in is basically a malnourished America where we have evidence of obesity. All these are, what they suggest is that we have a kind of crisis where we don't really have the right science to guide people about what the right thing to eat is. If you just think about what happened with the advice for eggs. When I was little, my family, my dad had a heart attack. We were scared to death of eggs because the advice from public health was if you eat eggs, you're gonna die immediately or something. So I didn't have eggs when I was little. Then the advice changed to, well, you can have whites, but don't eat the yolks. And then it was like, okay, well, maybe you can have a couple, but just be careful. And now it's eggs are a wonder food. The problem is we need excellent science. Science is reproducible, that doesn't just serve commercial interest, but actually reflects real reality. And the idea isn't to say, oh, don't eat this or don't eat that. The idea is to say, well, here's what the actual information, the actual scientifically valid information is, independently verified by independent research teams, reproducible, and then you can make your choices about what to do. But if I exercise 30 minutes a day, here's the benefits, and that's not exaggerated. But like real actual findings of scientific studies that are reproducible. And so I think that's another idea of the MAHA report is let's get back to excellent science. A lot of what happened during COVID, for instance, on is there any such thing as immunity after you get COVID, or will masking your toddler stop you from getting and spreading COVID? Which shows that the scientific engines of our country essentially have been I don't want to say corrupted, maybe too strong, but not really following rigorous protocols for validating truth. And so what the MAHA report says is let's get back to excellent science.
And that is something that was, I think, concerning to a lot of people because going back to COVID, you realize sometimes the decisions were made because they looked at it as in the best interest of the country as opposed to what's truthful and what's best for you. So they took that choice away from you. And I think that a lot of parents really found that troubling because if they were to raise a question, they were immediately confronted with, well, this is what the government is telling us. And we find out later the government wasn't always telling you the truth. Dr. J. Bhattacharya is the National Institute of Health Director. And I mean, when you work on this MAHA report, Make America Healthy Again, part of it is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And, he's looked at this almost on a grand scale, and it's something that he studied for his life. And I look at it, you talk about simple things you can do, and I think there's things on a macro level as an individual and as a family, you can change certain things, but there's going to be things that you probably didn't know about, and there's things that you can't change, and that's why you need people like RFK Jr. that know these things and to try to do it for the best. For example, one of the big things we're talking about, these artificial dyes that add nothing to flavor, but have all these other health consequences. Why are we allowing certain things to happen in this country when other countries have outlawed it? So it kind of works on a small scale at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take a lot. It's not going to be one thing, but that food dyes is a good example, right? So the philosophy in Europe is if you don't know for sure it's safe, you're not really you really shouldn't be giving it to people at scale, right? So why have petroleum-based food dyes if you haven't proven it's safe? In this country, unless it's proven unsafe, you could just give it to people at scale. The government doesn't test those food dyes for health effects extensively. It's just assumed to be safe. There's literally something called a standard called generally recognized as safe. And the FDA then says, okay, if it's generally recognized as safe, well, you can just do it. Is there no requirement that companies that put these dyes in their food prove that it's safe? It's really a question of burden of proof and thresholds. We have to say, look, America is facing a massive chronic disease crisis and making us and our kids less healthy than we ought to be. If you want to address that, you have to hold basically everyone to higher standards to say, look, if you want to give kids food dyes, if you want to give people allow people to use food stamps to buy really sugary drinks. If you want to like make recommendations about what the diet should be really let's use our common sense. Say let's hold us to a really high standard. So you assume that so you have to prove things that you don't have to like go out of your way to prove things that are that aren't really necessary, like petroleum-based food dyes, as unsafe before you say don't do it. And also you hold it to high standards for like the guidelines and the recommendations you give to people. You need to have really excellent evidence before you say eggs are bad for you.
Right. Now, if people wanted to look more up about the report, the MAHA report, Make America Healthy Again, maybe they have some questions, what's a good spot?
Actually, I recommend reading the report. It's written in a way that almost anyone can understand it. Even I can follow it, and it's available on the White House website. So just if you type in the MAHA report, "Make Our Children Healthy Again," it's available right there.
Yeah, whitehouse.gov, and you're looking at health expenditures per capita and where the United States sits, and there's all kinds of really easy to read charts. And, I really hope that you're successful in this mission. I feel like a lot of times parents have made these individual choices once they've learned about it. But the problem is not everyone knows about it. Sometimes it's just, well, it's the way my parents fed me. And that's fine because look at me. I'm still all right. But there's a lot of these little changes you can make in your life that can make your life a lot better.
Yeah, and there's also policies we can adopt to make our children healthier than they really deserve. We're taking away their birthright if we expose them to chemicals and other things that make them less healthy over their lives. We can fix that.
Dr. J. Bhattacharya, National Institute of Health Director, in the MAHA report, Make America Healthy Again. You can find that whitehouse.gov. I'm so glad you were able to spend some time with us here in St. Louis. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Whitehouse.gov. I'm looking at the report right now. When you search it, it's like the first thing that pops up, the whitehouse.gov. So look at these. Like childhood cancer incident has risen dramatically. Childhood cancer incidents 40% since 1975. Why is that? You have to start asking some of these questions. And I think he's right on when he talks about government involvement in the sense that we can look back at COVID as a prime example of that. One of the examples is government told you this. If you had questions about it, you're looked at as anti-science and you want people to die. You must hate your community. You must hate your neighbor for even bringing up any question about something. And then we later find out that some of these decisions were made for the sake of resources as opposed to health.
Yeah.
That's scary to me.
Yes.
We need to, that's not science-based. If you want to be science-based, you got to be science-based.
That is the thing. Like skepticism is the source. It's like the essence of what science is. Ask the question, challenge it, try it out, find out what you see. I love that they're going to the gold standard. I love it. Prove that it's healthy. Don't force us to prove that it's unhealthy.
Yeah. Brad, I got to tell you, that was a good get. You got a great guest right there.
We got great people working with us over at the White House. So,
yeah, Dr. J. Bhattacharya, he joins us there. And we went a little bit late because, this segment normally would be segment 2. So we have to take a break now. We'll come back. And after the break, some things that the Trump administration is now advising certain agencies to do and not do. I think this is pretty simple, actually. It seems pretty pragmatic in a way. So we'll talk about that coming up and a little bit later, too. To be or not the bee. The bee or not the bee. What is that? Ethan joins us with that segment a little bit later, too. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in for Andy Fry, 97.1 FM Talk.
Where I come from, a lot of front porch sitting. Where I come from, trying to make a living and working
Andy's
hard.
out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Manny Fry Show.
You have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-700-6898. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-700-6898. That's 800-700-6898 for $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898.
If it's time for new windows, there's only one place to call. That is Window World. Mark Cox here. Call my friends at Window World at 314-993-1800 for your free estimate today. If you have any questions, they'll be glad to send someone out to explain all of it to you. You can even schedule right online at windowworldstl.com. You know, there's a lot of high-interest financing out there, but here's what Window World's doing. Right now, they're offering 18 up to 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. You can't beat that. You also get a lifetime warranty that covers all of the parts, the glass breakage, and labor. Who else stands behind their product like that? Over half the appointments Window World will set this year are from previous customers or referrals from those customers. That is a testimony to their customer service, their quality, and their commitment to creating loyal customers. That's what you get with Window World. Call them at 314-993-1800, windowworldstl.com.
You're listening to the Annie Fry Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Time to schedule your air conditioner service. Get your entire HVAC system checked for $19 a month with the preferred partner plan and be ready for the first heat wave. Visit aircomfortservice.com.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Manny Fry Show.
He was so good, Dr. J. Bhattacharya. I just wow.
Super excited to have him on.
Brad, I'm telling you, man, you're getting the big guests.
I'm trying.
Hey, is Donald Trump and Elon Musk speaking yet?
Not yet. Not yet. We're still waiting. It just says soon.
All right. Do they have a camera fixed on a empty podium at the moment?
No, they have the camera fixed on the outside view of the White House with the Washington Monument in the background.
Nice. Very nice. So I guess we can talk a little bit about the Elon Musk stepping down stuff, and we can do that later. But that's the poll question. So if you want to go vote in the YouTube chat poll, was DOGE a success? Let me do this real quick. I don't know if you saw this story from The Hill, but Trump administration directed its agencies to not hire individuals based on race, sex, or religion while it works to overhaul the federal government through major cuts and restructuring. So they outlined the merit hiring plan, which were sent to the heads of departments and agencies, telling them not to use statistics like race, sex, ethnicity, national origin, or the broader concept of underrepresentation to hire or recruit. So essentially, the Trump administration has to say, we have to tell people not to discriminate in hiring anymore because there's so much discrimination going on based on hiring people on their race, sex, or religion that they need a reminder that that's unacceptable. Isn't that something?
That's wild. When you stop and think about it, it's wild. Wait, so what you're telling me is we want a colorblind society, a sex blind society. We want to hire the best person for the job because they have the attributes to do the job very well. That's the goal, right? That's merit. And what that also tells me is that over the past 4 years, what the previous administration was doing was looking at things like race or sex and deciding we want to hire this person based on that. And that has nothing to do with a person's ability to do a job.
Wow. What a concept, honestly. If you think about all the different leaps and bounds this country has had over the last 100 years when it comes to civil rights, that it's 2025 where it takes someone like Donald Trump to revisit the idea of discrimination to make sure it's not happening in government agencies. It's 2025.
Right.
But this is looked at as a step back for the people that are progressive. They look at this as and say, this is actually a bad thing to hire on merits. They're against it.
It's wild. It's wild. Yeah. Like, the guy that they're accusing of being the racist is actively getting rid of racist policies.
I know. Well, how about this too? Can you look at this in lawyer terms? And I know we have Brad Young that's going to join us in the show later. What a landmark SCOTUS ruling when it comes to, was it 7-2 ruled that Donald Trump can revoke protected status for immigrants pending appeal, which is huge. That's a huge ruling. And you think about it, 7 Supreme Court justices looked at the law and realized that, yes, he has the authority to do that. So I know we're going to talk to Brad Young about that. But isn't that something, too? If I were a lawyer, I'd be thinking to myself, how many clients can I line up that can prove they were discriminated based on race, sex, or religion over the Biden administration years because their hiring practices factored those things in, and it's the reason why you were not considered? I would start figuring these things out very quickly because, number one, if you work for the federal government, don't you want to be hired by merit, or do you only want to be hired because there's some quota that is the underarching or the overarching type of agenda?
Man, one of the things that I think about whenever you talk about, like, if you're hired because of a quota or something like that, one of the things that always pops into my head is that undermines the ability of the person that is, like, you know, hired because of their race. That person may be an excellent employee, but because you said, oh, we're going to hire somebody, Kamala Harris is a good but bad example of this because she actually wasn't very good at her job. But she always had, because Joe Biden said, I'm going to have a woman who is also a woman of color be my vice president. Right. So you just, what you've got hanging over that person's head is that. Well, there will be people out there that will say the only reason that person got that job is because they fit those two things. No, it would be much more valuable to a person like Kamala Harris if she was hired because Joe Biden said, I want to hire the best person for the job, and that person happened to be Kamala Harris. That would look,
isn't that funny?
Much better on her resume.
Let's look at this as like a Democrat-Republican thing. So you have Joe Biden that said this, and then let's go back to Mitt Romney when he ran for president, and he said, I have a binder full of women, meaning that he had applicants that were specifically women that they were considering for high-profile jobs, and he was looked at terribly because, I mean, they look at that as one of the things that sunk his rating among women, and they harped on that when he was running up against Obama. And now you have a Joe Biden who said, well, I'm only going to consider women of color or a minority or whatever it may be. And they were looked at as, let's cheer for Joe Biden for that. The hypocrisy in some ways. I think that's worth noting. I know that this was a quick break because we want to be able to get to the B or not the B with Ethan. So we better take that break now so we have a little bit of time to do this because we ran a little bit late with Dr. Bhattacharya, National Institute of Health Director. And by the way, if you missed that interview, just get the Odyssey app and rewind about 15 minutes ago or so, 20 minutes ago. Yeah, about 20 minutes ago.
We'll put it up on the podcast.
And you can listen to that interview. Yeah, we'll put it up on the podcast. You can get it to YouTube. On the YouTube page, yeah, you can scroll back. I mean, the archives will be there. You'll be able to do that later. So well worth your time to go back and listen to that. We're going to take a break now. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in for Andy Fry, 97.1 FM Talk.
Some sweet hog mama with a face like a gent. Said, get up and go, must have got up and win.
You're listening to The Annie Fry Show. The Annie Fry Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds. And most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
Or if that resume was from someone who
worked 12-hour shifts at the recycling company with my dad, who's 72. That taught me a work ethic that I carry with me every day.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone.
Growing up where I did, a lot of things could have gotten in the way of my goals. But I learned to push through, and that's what I bring to work every day.
So maybe it's time we look beyond the resume and look to Grads of Life. Discover new ways to develop great talent that are so much more than what's on paper at gradsoflife.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
Step outside and fall in love with your backyard again. From inviting porch overhangs to durable composite decks and cozy screen rooms, Lakeside Renovation and Design creates stunning outdoor living spaces designed for relaxation, entertaining, and making memories. With expert craftsmanship and top-quality materials, your new outdoor oasis will be perfect for every season. Call Lakeside Renovation and Design today or visit lakesiderd.com to get started. Let's turn your backyard into the retreat you've always dreamed of.
Mark Cox here. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how to link to the market without the risk. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go online to retirementkey.com.
Today's YouTube live chat poll. Was DOGE a success? Elon Musk is on his way out of Washington. He's going to return back and do his Starlink, his SpaceX, going back to Tesla. He's going to work on all those, the AI. He's going to work on all that stuff. And that begs the question, was DOGE a success? Some say it's not even over yet, but we got three options for you. Yes, it's a huge success. No, it's a total failure. Or yes, but there's still work to be done. To vote in this poll, you just go to Annie's YouTube page, youtube.com/@AnnieFry, F-R-E-Y, and vote. And then leave us a comment telling us why you voted the way you voted. If you think it's a total failure, tell us why you think that is. The time is 12:43, and this time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
The Mark Reardon Show.
Scott Jennings. It is not good for America to have foreign students here who do not love America. If we're bringing people here who hate America and want to take advantage of our system and tear down America and tear down the West, that's stupid.
Weekdays from 3 to 6. Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Manny Fry Show. The Annie Fry Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Nice music selection today, Ethan.
You know, there was a little bit of a message behind this one, Ryan. There's been a thing when Annie is out. And usually Ryan Wiggins is hosting when they have this whole Manny Fry Show thing going on. Been a little bit offended recently that my name isn't included in anything, you know. It's, Annie's out. Ryan and Brad are in. Well, you know what? I exist too. So all I want is a little bit of RESPECT.
I agree. Okay. I think that I will talk to Wiggins and say, where's Ethan? Where is he?
Exactly. Yeah, send him a firmly worded email.
Yeah, there we go. That'll do it.
All right. We're off the right bat here with the be or not to be.
Wiggins! Oh! Wiggins! The be or not the be.
All right, is it really a Friday on the Annie Fry Show if you don't have the be or not the be? I would argue no, so that is exactly what we're going to do here at 12:45. If you're not familiar with this segment, you have to be the judge and decide whether or not the article title is real or satire from the Babylon Bee. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started with this first one. Federal judge overturns law of gravity.
I think that's the B.
That has to be the B.
It is the B. What a surprise. The country was thrown into chaos this morning as a federal judge from the D.C. District Court overturned the law of gravity nationwide. The law of gravity is a bigoted law that quite literally keeps people down. This is typical of the fascist authoritarianism that has become President Trump's brand, said Judge Corbin Crumbly of his latest ruling. It is a blatant violation of the Constitution and my sensitive leftist sensibilities. It is therefore my divine will as an all-powerful federal judge that gravity no longer exists.
That was a banger.
That's
a good one.
Indeed it is. It is funny. I know we've been talking a lot about this the last couple of days, just on the station as a whole. And I know Carolyn Levitt Did you guys hear her comments yesterday
No.
on just during a press briefing on? She just went through. I mean, in the first, how many days are we in? 130 now, probably.
Yeah, right at it.
She went through all the different things that judges have blocked and the amount of warfare that's been going on in that. It's just another thing that this administration has had to deal with, Mr. Recker.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's not a fair standard. So during the Biden versus Trump administrations and the amount of attack that goes on against Donald Trump, it was par for the course. We saw it during his first administration. We knew this sort of thing would happen. But one of the things that's interesting about Donald Trump is he found a way to just continue fighting nonetheless. And I think his approach changed this time around, which is I'm just going to do it anyway because it doesn't matter how I approach it. You're going to fight it in court anyway. So if the ends is the courts, then might as well just do it now and let's get it as fast as we can. So that's why I think he's doing a lot of what he's doing.
On to the next one. Church planters meet to brainstorm dumbest possible name for the new church.
That's a B article. It's got to be a B article.
It is the
yeah,
B.
It has to.
Oh, no. There it is. According to sources close to the discussion, a group of evangelicals met at a local coffee shop to brainstorm the dumbest possible name for the new church they are planting in the area after reportedly agreeing on matters of doctrine in about 5 minutes. The group moved on to the important task of deliberating terrible church names. Proposed names started off with quickly rejected suggestions like Houston Community Church before eventually considering names like No Cap Church, Living Vibe, Terminal Velocity Church, all caps Alive with an exclamation point, River of Impact. There's quite a few other ones here. It finishes here with, after about 90 minutes, a member of the group, who was later identified as Matthew Chambers, claimed to have come up with the perfect name. What about Hope House? It's like a house, but full of hope. Get it? It doesn't get much better than that.
Oh man,
I love it.
You are seeing deeper into this generation. You're seeing a lot more creative church names out there. That is for sure. Okay, on to the next one here. Stephen Miller calls out CNN on live TV for using politically correct buzzwords.
You said Stephen Miller?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think this is real.
It's got to be. I mean, when you bring him into it.
Of course it's real. I mean, this one was too easy. There was way too realistic characteristics of it. CNN, politically correct buzzwords, that's pretty much all you needed. It didn't even need to be Stephen Miller. So I'm going to read through this transcript here. Pamela Brown says, an undocumented migrant sent a letter threatening to kill the president, promising to self-deport after the assassination. This has been a big story the last couple of days. And this is an undocumented immigrant. I do want to know that. Miller says, I want to clarify what you mean, so we're talking about the same thing. Are you saying this immigrant was here illegally? Brown says, yes, but I am, and that's why I said that. I clarified that. Miller responds with, you said undocumented, and I wasn't clear what that means. I assume they have a fake ID, and I'm assuming they have a fake social security number. I'm assuming they have a passport in their home country. She responds with, that's neither here nor there, Stephen. I want this to be, and call me naive, a good faith discussion about what's happening right now. And he finally, to conclude, says, when we use language that's designed to obscure the truth, that's not good faith. An illegal alien is an illegal alien. They're not an undocumented immigrant.
Stephen Miller is a stone cold assassin. There's no way I'd want to be on the other end of an argument with him, because he will hold you to task. And he's like, nah, I'm not finished yet. I need to finish my point. And he will absolutely humiliate you.
It almost doesn't matter what the topic is either, because he's such a good debater. You know, he reminds me in a way, you know, guys like Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk, that just like, it doesn't matter what the topic is, unless it's your area of expertise, then maybe it's 50-50. Good luck otherwise.
Yeah.
I you know what? I've never really considered it that way. The undocumented would assume that they hold zero documents. But in a lot of ways, sometimes that document comes from, like, for example, where I live here in Michigan, you can get a City of Detroit ID if you're an illegal immigrant. You can still get something that would show them what your name is on some laminated card. So that technically counts as a document. Undocumented, they make it sound like they are off the grid. They are a ghost, which is really not the case because there's a lot of governments that do produce you some sort of document. So it is disingenuous to say that. You should be saying illegal immigrant, something that really describes exactly what it is.
On to the next one here. The White House asks judge if there's anything the president is actually allowed to do.
Ooh.
What are we thinking, guys?
Do we have any transcripts? Because that could actually...
We do have some information. We do have some quotes in the article. Yes.
I hope it's real. I hope it's real.
Okay, Ryan hopes it's real. I'm going to say B, so maybe one of us will be right.
It is the B.
Oh.
In an attempt to clear up lingering confusion over the role of the nation's chief executive and avoid ongoing injunctions to block executive actions, the White House asked a federal judge if there's anything the president is actually allowed to do. After being repeatedly stymied on nearly every attempted action, the Trump administration sought clarification to find out what exactly the president is allowed to do, if anything. So, can the president do anything or no? Asked lead White House counsel David Warrington in a brief submitted to a federal judge. We were totally under the impression that the president is really important, has a lot of power. But if that's not the case, it would be helpful to know. Are there any actual things that he can do, or is the presidency more just like a powerless ceremonial title like the King of England or the Governor of North Dakota?
Wasn't that Doug Burgum?
Carolyn Levitt even apparently had some comments on this, saying it would be great to find out. I thought the president was in charge of the executive branch and could make decisions, but maybe not. We've learned he's obviously not as powerful as a federal judge or something like that. Getting some clarity on whether or not he can actually do anything could make the next 4 years a lot easier.
Man,
love it. I love that so much.
We have probably time for one more here. Yep. Can I just say one thing real quick? I think everyone just kind of assumes because Trump is just such a beast that he's good. He's just going nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how people like Will Scharf or Carolyn Levitt do their jobs.
Keep up,
with how much demand there is. Carolyn Levitt is a new mother, a 1-year-old baby. I do not know how you can possibly do it all, and it would shock me if most of these people made it all 4 years because of the demand of it,
like burnout and stuff like that. You do see a lot of turnover in the White House and stuff like that. I mean, this is most administrations, not unique to the Trump administration as far as the turnout. But yeah, I mean, we're on air from noon to 3, and at the end of the day, from a 3-hour radio show, I'm exhausted.
Mm-hmm. I get it. Well, do we have time for one more, or do we have to go?
Time for one more? Yeah, we have time for one more.
Let's do a quick one.
Okay, here we go. Last one. In quotations, I'm comfortable with my masculinity, says man with zero masculinity.
That's the B.
That's real.
It's the B.
No, that's real.
According to sources, a local man, Florian Beeve is his name, has stated that he is very comfortable with his masculinity despite having no masculinity whatsoever.
No.
Reporters caught up to Beeve as he was riding his electric bicycle away from the favorite fair trade vegan muffin shop. Yes, I'm very comfortable in my masculinity. Unlike most men who are extremely insecure, he said while tucking his jasmine-scented hair under his White Dudes for Harris bike helmet.
Oh,
Real men like me aren't afraid to express their masculinity in unconventional ways. Take that, all you so-called manly men. And that is the B or not the B.
All right, I know we got to go to break, but can I just say, sometimes I think I say clever things in my entire life. I'll never be as clever as the Babylon Bee. They are so good.
So good.
All right. Well, maybe we'll get lucky and we can catch the Elon Musk exit interview. Hopefully we can do some of that in the next hour. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in for Annie Fry, 97.1 FM Talk.
Sioux football is here to stay. After an undefeated home season and a second straight 10-win year, the Tigers are looking for more in 2025.
Eli and the boys have done it again.
With a top 10 transfer portal class and a strong home schedule highlighted by Kansas, Alabama, South Carolina, and Texas A&M, you don't want to miss out. Get your spot in line by joining the season ticket waitlist at mutigers.com/FB waitlist. MIZ.
Hey guys, it's Mark Reardon. If you're struggling with low energy, performance issues, or weight gain, Game Day Men's Health has got you covered with testosterone therapy, ED treatments, and more in all of a relaxed man cave environment. At Game Day, you'll get a free testosterone test and consultation, all in just 1 hour. Game Day is the premier men's health clinic with locations in Chesterfield, O'Fallon, Missouri, and Glen Carbon, Illinois. Visit GameDayMen'sHealth.com. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Get back in the game with Game Day Men's Health.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-700-6898. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-700-6898. That's 800-700-6898. For $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898.
Is your home, business, or church looking tired, chalky, or in need of curb appeal? Go Rhino. Tired of painting year after year? Go Rhino. Our unique 3M ceramic technology is perfect for brick, stucco, aluminum, steel, color lock masonite, and more. It's backed by our 25-year transferable warranty to not chip, crack, or peel. Great if you're staying, and even better if you're selling. Our ceramic coating allows you to maintain all of your architectural features. The decision to do vinyl will leave your home looking like a plastic moldy box. With Rhino Shield, in 15 years, your home will still have that, wow, it looks like you just got it painted. We've done large condo complexes, parking garages, pole barns, and commercial strip malls. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. Evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
No paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
KFTK FM Florissant.
An Odyssey station.
White House sending a new message on China. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller telling reporters the administration is preparing other possible actions targeting China after President Trump in a social media post earlier accused Beijing of violating a recent trade agreement.
This is a chance to show it's serious about upholding that commitment to the rules-based international order. And as soon as possible is the best answer I can give you. We want to see them comply with their agreements with the United States and fulfill their obligations.
President Trump paused a higher tariff on China as part of that recent agreement. China's embassy in Washington accusing the U.S. of discriminatory restrictions, calling for both sides to jointly uphold the consensus that was reached. President Trump just beginning a joint news conference with Elon Musk, who's wrapping up his time as a special government employee. The administration says his DOGE mission to weed out waste, fraud, and abuse will continue. Democrats say it's been chaotic and unconstitutional. Former President Joe Biden says we owe a debt to our military, laying down their lives so we can live ours in peace. And he says troops don't wear Democrat or Republican on their uniforms.
Our politics have become so divided and so bitter. All the years I've been doing this, I never thought we'd get to this point. But we are.
The former president speaking earlier at a Memorial Day event in Delaware, his first public remarks since the announcement he has cancer.
Since leaving office, the president has been diagnosed with prostate cancer that has spread to his bones, and House Republicans have ramped up investigations into some of the former president's aides, including his doctor, asking them to sit for interviews about the former president's condition while in office.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. Hamas says it is still reviewing a U.S. proposal for a temporary ceasefire with Israel. Meantime, a new U.S.-backed group says it's distributed more than 2 million meals in 4 days in Gaza, despite chaotic incidents at some aid sites. America is listening to Fox News.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group. And I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney. And the truth is, I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. At Wesley, we've helped over 40,000 families cancel their timeshare, and I want to share with you how we do it. Just give my office a call. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare, or you'll pay nothing. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-790-1400. 800-790-1400. 800-790-1400.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Good looking weather on this Friday afternoon. Mostly sunny skies. It's a little bit breezy, but boy, is it nice. 78 for the high. Tonight, clear skies. Wonderful this evening. 63 for the low. The weekend, Saturday sunny. Warm it up to 84 in the afternoon. 63 and clear Saturday night. Sunday sunny, and let's pop it to 87. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Spring in St. Louis definitely has storms that come through and they ravage different areas, but we've definitely had that here recently. And Air Comfort Service wants to help you out to make sure that that AC unit that's outside of your house, this is not really something that I had ever really thought to check. But if you've got hail damage on your roof and you're getting a new roof, if you've had a lot of wind, down limbs or whatever, is that AC unit that's sitting outside of your home going to continue to function the way it's supposed to? Call Air Comfort Service, 314-513-0091. That's 314-513-0091, and have expert technicians assess the damage and give you all the information you need. You get your AC looked at immediately for an insurance claim and make sure that lingering issues don't follow you this summer. If something creeps up because it's shifted, maybe there was some damage to that unit during the storm, you need to make sure you're on it now to help have insurance make sure that they pay up. 314-513-0091, aircomfortservice.com/storm.
Lifestyles Unlimited member Chad on the life-changing rewards of real estate investing.
Whenever you have residents coming in thanking you for taking what was dull and drab and turning it around, making their lives better, that's definitely a blessing.
Become a life changer today with Lifestyles Unlimited. Text the word radio to 88007. That's radio to 88007. Join for just $297. A 60% off savings. Lifestyles Unlimited. Text radio to 88007.
Stop everything you're doing right now and ask yourself, are you currently receiving steady paychecks? What about when you're retired? Will you receive a monthly check to cover your expenses and also have some fun? Marvin Mitchell and the team at Compass Retirement Solutions calls this mailbox money. It's a monthly check you'll receive throughout retirement. They don't want you to worry about if the money will show up or how much money you'll receive. The only thing they want you to think about is how to spend it when it arrives. Find out how to get enough money in your mailbox every month when you're retired. Call Marvin Mitchell and the Compass Retirement Solutions team at 314-373-1598 to start working on a plan that can help you create the monthly income you'll need in retirement. Call 314-373-1598 right now and schedule a visit with Compass Retirement Solutions. 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services, investments, and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory in Missouri and Illinois.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Oh yeah, it is the moment you have been waiting for.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom.
Annie's out. Ryan and Brad are in.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
This is the Manny Fry Show.
One quick correction. Ryan and Brad and Ethan are in. We need to get that changed. I'm on Ethan's side on this one. Welcome back to the Annie Fry Show. I'm filling in Ryan Recker with you. And if you want to find me online at Ryan Recker, Twitter, Ryan Recker Radio, places like that. It looks like Elon Musk's exit interview at the White House is happening right now with President Donald Trump. Is that right, Brad?
Yep. Elon just stepped into the frame, and Trump is reading off some of the massive accomplishments that he's, achieved in his short time there.
Maybe, can we listen to some of that? I'm just kind of curious how that sounds.
Yeah.
Then they said, well, we can cut a lot more than that, and we're going to do it very surgically. We're going to continue on the march. We're making America great again. When I was in Saudi Arabia, and we were in, as you know, 3 really great countries, predominantly the 3. Qatar was great, UAE was great, Saudi Arabia, incredible. Such an incredible experience to be in those 3 countries. But the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and I must tell you, the great leaders of the other 2 that we just mentioned, they all said the same thing, that the United States is the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. And 6 months ago, we thought it was dead. It was like a dead country. And it would have been a dead country if we didn't have the right result on November 5th. There would have been a horrible, horrible situation was going on with the borders, with transgender for everyone, men playing in women's sports, and so much more. But they were saying the hottest country anywhere in the world. And then I played that little clip because that was one person who's respected. Or 2 people, because Joe was in that one too. Joe's a good man. But that was one group of people saying something about the success of what we've done over the last 4 months. They cannot believe it. In the one case, they said they've never seen anything like it as long as they've been doing what they've been doing. They've been doing it for a long time. So I want to thank Elon for helping. And again, the United States right now is the hottest country anywhere in the world. There's no country as hot. And we're doing really well. When I left, we had no wars, we had no problems. We defeated ISIS, we rebuilt our military, and we had no inflation. And when I came back, we had a lot of inflation. We had wars all over the place. We had the embarrassment in Afghanistan where we gave up billions and billions of dollars of military equipment, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, I believe. I believe that strongly. We have Russia with Ukraine. We had the attack on Israel in October, the horrible attack, October 7th. Horrible, horrible attack. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And now we have something where we're really healing a lot of that. We stopped...
Well, it seems like he's not talking much about DOGE right now. So, what can you do? But that was kind of interesting. There's Elon Musk there. What's up with his right eye? Did he bump it? Did you see that?
Yeah, he's got a little mark under his eye, doesn't he?
Yeah, I wonder what that's
I also want
about.
his shirt. His shirt says the Doge Father, and it's the Godfather
They're going
logo.
to sell that on there. Do you ever use the Twitter/X Grok, which is their AI?
I use it a lot.
Can
really
I tell
do.
you what I found is really useful with it? And I found people doing this online. If there's something viral going on, they'll do @Grok. Hey, can you explain to me what's going on here? And then the AI will give you a summary of what you're looking at, context. And it's like, whoa, that's awesome use of AI.
It's great. I really try to use the AI as much as I can in the context of my job, and there are things about it that are super helpful.
Yep. Well, the end days, at least of the government, who knows, maybe Elon Musk comes back, but probably not. He probably is going to say, I got other things I got to do. He dedicated a lot of time to this, and I think it was in good service. So let's hope that they take his findings seriously, and the people that worked around him, let's hope they can continue that on. Something else, it says, this one is the big, beautiful bill and the issues it faces in the Senate. Do you think that maybe bringing Elon Musk on and Donald Trump saying things today, which is, let's try to codify some of these things. He didn't say codify, he said codify, but make it permanent. Let's get these cuts recognized and let's get Congress to act on these. Do you think that this move, this press conference, things like that is basically a signal to Senate, which is we are going to make these cuts. Like we're going to be committed to this. We're not just going to add on to this big, beautiful bill without trying to get some of these other things done, if not first, but hopefully soon. Is that a sign to Senate to, okay, if you're on the fence, get on board?
Yeah, I think that there's part of that. I think the other part of that is too, like, because I was reading a couple things. Stephen Miller is one of the ones that wrote something about this. The cuts that DOGE made aren't in the purview of the what do they call it, the reconciliation process. So you can't codify them into law without it being a different bill. So they're going to move that to a different bill. But I do think whenever you look at the Senate, I do think the Senate has an opportunity there to cut even more in this spending bill. And I think that they have a little more wiggle room because you only need 50 votes. And 50 plus one, which the plus one would be the tie-breaking vote, which would be the VP.
Yeah,
so,
JD Vance.
And I look at, in the Senate, who wouldn't want more cuts? And I can come up with three people. And that's, Mitch McConnell, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski. I think those would be your three. We don't really want to cut any more out of this budget people. And I think you can afford to lose their votes, provided you can get Rand Paul on board that you've cut enough for his liking.
With all of the DOGE and things going on, are you kind of surprised some of these people like Rand Paul weren't more hands-on with that group of people? Like I would think if you are putting together a dream team of government cuts, at least an organization that we're going to cut government spending, that Rand Paul would be invited onto that. What would Marvel call it? The Avengers of the budget? Like Rand Paul should be invited to the Avengers of the budget.
Yeah. You would like a Rand Paul, a Thomas Massey, a Chip Roy, you would get like those people in there to advise. Yes. But I also wonder, too, though, would Rand Paul, is he up for an organization like DOGE, or does that, because of his libertarian constitutional leanings, would he look at that as like, this isn't actually the role that this isn't who should be doing this. It should actually be Congress.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you sent, Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, Thursday, said that this is mortgaging the next generation's future as the U.S. is on track to spend $89.3 trillion over the next 10 years. So he said that on the weekend shows on Sunday, and he said this has always been his thing. Basically, he said, I've always been someone that's talked about fiscal responsibility, and when something's not responsible, I'm going to continue to stand by that. And I admire that, and I think he's right with that. I have such trust issues with any politician telling me that go ahead and pass it, it'll be fine, we'll fix this later stuff. I hate that, which is something the Democrats did. What was the Nancy Pelosi line? We need to pass it so we can see what's in it.
Yeah.
No. It's the same philosophy, which is we need to pass it so we can get to work fixing it, which is all the other overspending. I don't trust that process. Show me something I can trust. And I can trust that Elon Musk and the people around him did everything they could to root out what you can find in the course of 3 or 4 months. I think he found out very quickly that it's a difficult task, and it's a really hard one when you're trying to work with government, because it's like working in quicksand. And it seems like the ground's always shifting underneath you. But I think he did good. All things considered, he actually is going to leave the place better than when he got there. So that's something to be proud of, I think. I think there's a couple of clips we can play here. Let's do clip number 2 on the big, beautiful bill. I think this was Ted Cruz discussing it here. Can we hear what he's got to say?
We will get it done. Now, it's going to be bumpy. It's going to be messy. But we will get it done because it is the main vehicle for us to deliver on the mandate from the voters. We are going to secure the border. We're going to rebuild the military. We're going to cut taxes. And I hope and believe the Senate is going to cut spending more than the House, that we're going to see the Senate be more fiscally conservative and to stop bankrupting this country. That's what we need to do.
That would be a first.
Yeah.
I love how Hannity's like, shut up, we got to go to break. Shut up. Like, it's like the hook comes out, trying to get the last word, Ted Cruz, in there. I know how frustrating that can get when you're like, okay, you're hosting a show and you have a guest on, and the producer's like, you got to break, you got to break, you got to break. And the guest is still talking, and you're like, we got to go, bye. You just have to like really quick cut the person off. What Elon Musk leaving DC. Kevin O'Leary discussed Elon Musk. This is kind of interesting too. Can we play clip number 3?
Bringing the whole idea of a different kind of audit into the psyche of bipartisan taxpayers. DOGE is a good idea. It just is. Auditing the government under any administration is a good idea. And trying to make it more efficient is a good idea. Now, one thing everybody learns, and I'm including myself in this statement, is you don't understand Washington till you go there. It is a very nasty, nasty place.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And anybody that exposes themselves that close to the sun is going to burn some feathers.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. That's one of the things that I always wonder. Like, you ever have someone that you really like and they run for office and they have aspirations for even higher office, and you think to yourself, why would you put your family through that? Because that's what Washington does.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, because they will come after you from every angle that they can. It's amazing what the desire for power will do to people.
And, I'll tell you, Washington, D.C. and politicians or whatever it is, when it comes to fiscal responsibility or accountability, they don't want to be accountable to anyone. Now, they need to be reminded they are accountable to the people. So it's kind of interesting when someone comes in there and holds them accountable. It's like, the old term is what, the fox and the chicken hen. That's probably not the best analogy. This is almost like, I don't even know what the right analogy would be. It would be like the Oz when they pull the curtain back and you realize it's all just junk. Like it's a bunch of levers and mechanical things going on that are operating these things, and the only purpose they serve is self-serving and for their own power's sake, and they're doing it with your dollar, which is garbage. That's not the best analogy either. There's probably a better analogy. I'll think about it a little bit. And by think about it a little bit, I mean I'll completely forget about it here in like 5 seconds. Something else about Elon Musk leaving. The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bassinet. Can we play his clip number 4?
Elon came in and in 100 days did some very important work. And I characterize two principles with DOGE here. One is the absolute level of cost cutting, which Elon has set in motion. So DOGE is not going to end with Elon. It is a way of thinking about cutting costs, and it's also a way of thinking about making the government more productive and more efficient.
Is that possible, making the government more efficient?
It is. I think it is. This might be a little pie in the sky, but I think in both of those clips that we just heard, I think they laid out the process and what you actually have to do to make government more efficient is you have to change the way people think about it. And you have to and if you can change that mindset, and this is what they're saying, I have a big article here from Dave Marcus where he was talking about how Elon Musk changed the way the American people think about government waste and stuff like that. If you change the way people think about government, then you can change your government to match that thinking. And so there is hope. But, man, to think about it is it's not easy. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult. And it's going to be a longer process because shifting that window to the way people think takes a long time.
Can you trust any politician anymore? Like, how many, let's say, percentage of politicians out there that are trustworthy? Over, under 5%. Where would you put that?
I'm going to put it over. I think that there are some good people out there. Yeah, I would put it over that.
It would be a hard thing for me to bet the mortgage on over, honestly. I feel like the older I get, the less trust I have, and any underlining motivations that a politician may have. I feel like they don't serve the people at the higher levels. I think sometimes on the lower levels, they might be able to serve the people a little bit better, but the higher levels, it just seems like not so much when you get to the federal level side. I think am I just too dark thinking when it comes to this?
No, I think you're onto something there in the sense that it's hard to serve the people, because one of the things that happens when you reach those higher levels is you become more disconnected from the people. That's what makes state and local government so accountable, is because the people are right there. It is. I have my state rep's phone number on my phone, and I have spoken to my aldermen in my city. I have representation, and I can contact them directly. I don't have my national rep's phone number, I have some people that I can contact to get in contact with him. I have the Capitol switchboard saved in my phone, but I can't get in contact with them directly the way I can with local ones. And so when people get that far away, you become more disconnected, and it's harder to know what your people, your constituency is thinking or wanting.
Do you ever hear that story about Jay Leno and Barack Obama?
No, I haven't heard this one.
Do a quick one here, but back when Barack Obama was running for president for the first time, he was on with Jay Leno or something like that. And of course, Jay makes jokes and Barack Obama laughs and whatever. So Barack Obama gives Jay Leno his phone number, said, call me sometime. So, Barack Obama ends up winning the presidency. He's in office. Jay Leno's like, I got the president's phone number. Hey, you're the president. So all his friends are like, no, you don't. You can't call the president. So he's like, all right. Jay Leno thought he's a hot shot. He's like, okay, he told me I can call him. So he dials the phone number. On the other line, there's Barack Obama. Hello. He goes, hey, Mr. President, it's Jay Leno. He goes, Jay, lose this number. Hangs up. So in the back of my mind, I think you calling your representative up. Hey, it's Brad. Brad, lose this number.
Not my state rep. Not my state rep. My state rep is awesome.
Your state rep. Like you. All right. When we come back, did you see the story about the migrant that was arrested? Because now they're calling into question this handwritten letter. And if it was authentic, meaning written by this illegal immigrant or not. And now they're using it as a defense to say, if you didn't write the letter, maybe you shouldn't deport him because now he's a victim. It's a really interesting conversation, which we're going to get to after the break. Also, we're going to be talking to our chief legal analyst, Brad Young, in about 45 minutes from now, a little bit after 2 o'clock, regarding the Supreme Court in the big ruling in favor of Donald Trump today. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in on 97.1 FM Talk.
And there's nothing I can do. I'm stuck with you. So go ahead.
And Brad are in. This is the Manny Fry Show. The Annie Fry Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Stewart's American Mortgage and the Bagel Loan, 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. The Bagel Loan can be used for a new home purchase, but it can also be used for a refinance. If you purchased your home in the last couple of years, it's possible that rates could be lower now than when you initially secured your initial mortgage. And when you use the Bagel Loan to refinance, guess what? You pay $0 in closing costs to secure that new low rate. 314-324-4440. Call or text 314-324-4440 for your Bagel Loan refinance. You might be wanting to do a cash out refinance and take some of the equity in your home and apply it to some high interest credit card debt. Maybe you want to build an addition, finish the basement, add a deck to your home. Maybe you need to consider that Bagel Loan cash out refinance because you pay $0 when you use the Bagel Loan. No closing costs, none. 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. Google the Bagel Loan, NMLS number 226715.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aid.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Your life and your loved ones' lives depends on what you've done to prepare. Disasters, shortages, supply chain failures, they're not ifs, they're wins. Don't be left without life-saving medication. The Jace case is a prescribed set of emergency antibiotics, life-saving medications you have on hand before you need them, offering peace of mind, no panicking, fast, affordable, and could save your life. Go to JASE.com. Use code RADIO for a discount because once the shelves are empty, it's already too late.
You're listening to the Annie Fry Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is hiring licensed journeymen. Don't have a journeyman license? Air Comfort Service will help you get it. Get guaranteed hours year-round and more. Apply online at aircomfortservice.com.
This is the Annie Fry Show. Follow Annie on X at Annie Fry Show.
When it's time for leaving, I hope you'll understand that I was born a rambling man.
Hey, welcome back. I'm Ryan Recker filling in. Interesting story. A lot of people have been covering this. In fact, they brought it up during their panel discussion on CNN, and Scott Jennings had some good quotes on this, which I heard he was on with Reardon yesterday. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Him and Reardon are actually good friends.
Good friends? How
Yes.
good are we talking? Like, do they go out to eat together?
Well, they were at the Cardinals game over the weekend, I think.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay, so they would go to a Cardinals game. Would they go to a movie together? I want to know what level of friendship they may have. That's the next level.
You know what?
Go to a movie.
I'll ask Reardon after the show today. I'm like, how close are you guys?
Do you call him at night to wish him a good night?
Yeah.
You tuck him in like at night through a phone call. What's the thing that guys do? I saw the social media trend. They call their dudes up and say, "Hey, good night," just checking in on you before bed.
I am not familiar with this one.
I think some guy recorded himself doing that, or at least his wife or whatever recorded her husband doing that to another guy, and it turned into such like a wholesome thing that people said, "I'm going to do that. I'm going to call my bro at night and tuck him in through the phone, basically say goodnight to him that way." So I don't know, probably not at that level, but Scott Jennings, by the way, is such a superstar in rising on CNN right there. You think about the obligatory Republican on CNN or the Democrat on Fox News. I don't think there's been such an impactful crossover since who was the guy that always was on the 5, and it was he's not alive anymore. It was I can't remember his name, but he was on there and he wore the suspenders and he always had his hand up like Larry King did.
I know who you're talking about. But what is his name?
Yeah, I can't think of it, but I'm sure people in the comments are going to start saying it anyway. But but basically, I don't think there's been such an impactful personality since him. It's not Robert. Oh man, someone in the comments help me out here, please. Why can't I think of his name? But I look at this and I say, okay, Scott Jennings is just one of those people, and I got to say, wore suspenders. Tucker Carlson. No, that's not him. It was.
He was a Democrat strategist, wasn't
he? Yeah. He ended up getting fired, and then I think he died not that long after. So this is the story that they discussed on there, and we'll hear from Scott Jennings. Migrant arrested over handwritten letter threatening Trump assassination may have been set up. What a headline right there. So an illegal immigrant from Mexico, and this is from the New York Post, is where I'm getting this right up from. Arrested over the handwritten letter to threaten to assassinate President Donald Trump may have actually been set up, law enforcement sources say to the Post. Mexican national Ramon Morales Reyes, 54 years old, was taken into custody in Wisconsin after an ICE agent received the death threat letter on May 21st, the Department of Homeland Security announced on Wednesday. So when you hear that, you're like, oh, that's really interesting. Bob Beckel, finally someone said it. Bob Beckel, that was the name of the commentator on Fox News. Thank you to Russell putting that one in the comments. So the whole crutch of this idea is that, hey, if he didn't write this letter, then he's the victim. But then you start to look at this person's long rap sheet, and he is anything but the victim, and you start to question, why is this person in the United States to begin with? Can we play, let's see, this is clip number, where was this? Number 7. Can we play clip 7 first?
You said this person might be the victim here, and I'm not disputing that this letter might have been made up. This person's not a victim. Ramon Morales, age 54, has entered the United States illegally at least 9 times between 1998, since 1998. Criminal record including felony hit and run, criminal damage to property, disorderly conduct with a domestic abuse modifier. So even if this letter was made up, he should be deported immediately.
Let me explain.
Letter or no letter.
100%. 9 times entered the country illegally, and now he's linked to a death threat to the president of the United States. He's got domestic violence history. He's got other felony charges under his record, and he's allowed to be here in the United States. What? I think this is one of those things that, like, most people would look at and say, why are we even debating this? Get him out of here right now. I think it seems like a bipartisan get him out. I would hope.
You would think that, like, any reason, it amazes me because it's like any reason to not deport somebody. The rap sheet aside, they're like, but they made up this letter about him, maybe, so he should get to stay. No. The letter, like, if they made up a letter about him or whatever, that should be irrelevant.
They only found out about him because some fake news. So he should go back to being the person that was entered the country illegally. Was it 9 times or whatever they cited in the last couple of decades? Man, no, I don't think so. So let's go to clip number 8. This is part of the CNN panel from last night too.
But the DHS secretary put his picture up and said he threatened to assassinate the president, which apparently he may not have done. I mean, it seems very much like investigators do not believe he did that. It's just a question of, do we care whether or not the statements that public officials make are true or not, or does it just not matter?
I think for some people it depends on who it impacts, to be honest. If it impacts an immigrant,
Wait a
I don't
second.
care.
The guy's a felon. What the hell are we talking
But
about?
the,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Why don't we just send him back to where he came from?
That's
He
not
can
what
live
it is.
in
But
his
that's not the issue that we're debating.
Sure it's the issue.
No, we're not. No, it's not.
Sure, Kevin O'Leary. Oh my goodness. Well, he just comes in. That's all he had to say.
Yeah.
You knew they were going to talk over him as soon as he had it. So he's like, okay, I got 8 words. 8 words before they cut me off.
It's amazing because you listen to CNN and they're looking at that, and what's more important to them is can we trust what our elected officials are telling us? Well, we just went through 4 years of Biden, so the answer is no, we cannot. They told us he was strong and healthy, and we couldn't keep up with him, and all this other stuff. And now this guy gets quote unquote falsely accused of assassination. Like, this is a bad guy. Like Kevin O'Leary said, he is a felon. The important thing is that we want to remove criminals who shouldn't be here from society and put them back where they came from, be that in their prisons in their home countries or just back to their home countries, and let him be their problem. But they're like, but they might have falsely accused us of something. Can we trust our officials? Where were you? Where were you 3 years ago?
It's so funny because it's like part of their defense is that we can't trust ICE, we can't trust immigration officials, we can't trust the Trump administration to enforce immigration law. So their idea, I think what they're trying to allude to is that Trump will do anything to make up stories in order to get people deported. That's like the grand overall thing. But when you're confronted with, okay, let's look at this individual who entered the country 9 times illegally and he's continued to live here illegally, felony backgrounds, including domestic violence on top of that. And you're saying that this is somehow a conspiracy against this man to have him removed because they just want all immigrants to be deported. That is a stretch from CNN. And Kevin O'Leary calls him out immediately.
Yeah, it is amazing the people they will jump to the defense of. And I think they would really rather jump to the defense of the grandma that's being deported, who's been here and being torn away from their family. But the Trump administration isn't doing that. They're going after abusers, felons, criminals, gang members. Those are who they're going after. And so this is who the left, who's trying to defend illegal immigration. That's who they are forcing. It's actually, on Trump's part, it's really brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Let me read another story here, another New York Post story, and this has to do with illegal immigration. Teen illegal immigrant given slap on wrist for killing drug rehab worker in crash is arrested by ICE with family. We're talking weeks later, it seems like. So part of this narrative that you find, and we'll play a clip from Chris Cuomo, who says we're just picking and choosing these articles, which, I guess there could be some merit to that, but I think we got to be realistic when you find these cases. It drove me nuts when I was living in St. Louis to see the slap on the wrist of the legal system. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the prosecutor just completely ignoring very violent criminals to allow them to continue to do violent things. And, you had all these issues that were going on in the streets of St. Louis, people driving cars the way they do. And, I remember doing my late night talk show and I would have people calling in. And there was one woman, I remember her call very, very much, because she would call in a few times, especially on the anniversary after her husband was killed. She said her husband was crossing the street. You had someone that just went through a red light, hit him, killed him. And that person got a slap on the wrist because they look at it. We have to be sympathetic to the person that was, we don't want to ruin this person's life who just killed someone. And other people would call in and they would talk about, now this person killed my loved one in separate instances. And now I got to see them out there living the rest of their life and my loved one's gone forever. And some cases, when it came to St. Louis, they didn't even arrest them to begin with. Or if they did, they were let go because they didn't bring charges in time. And they always said this stupid thing, which was, we reserve the right to bring charges in the future, which never ended up happening. So you had all these victims that had no justice when the lives were taken. Let's look at this one case in, was this Wisconsin? Okay, a legal teen immigrant who was given slap-on-wrist sentence for killing a Colorado drug rehab worker in a high-speed crash was arrested by ICE weeks later. The 16-year-old, whose name has not been publicly released, probably because he's underage, says from Colombia with a conviction for reckless driving resulting in death, was arrested by ICE last week and will remain in ICE custody pending an immigration hearing. Part of this is when you're 16, they are much more lenient, even if you take another person's life. But what you find, and a lot of times, is that you say, okay, we have to be sympathetic because of the kid and the teens got the rest of their life ahead of them. They end up going and doing things like this over. They end up recommitting crimes again. And you have to ask the question, why were they even allowed to do that if they were in the country illegally to begin with? Why, if you catch them in the country illegally, why even set them up to give them an opportunity to commit more violent crimes? Why? They should have been gone. The officials, he was 15 at the time, was driving a Jeep, not licensed, going over 90 miles an hour in a 45, ends up hitting and killing an innocent person. And then out on the streets and is caught later committing more crimes. I mean, we're talking weeks later after they killed someone. Ridiculous to me. Why do we allow that to happen? And why do people defend? Because we have to be more sympathetic to people that are in the country illegally. And there's a whole CNN panel defending people like that.
It goes back to what I was talking about yesterday. It's that intersectionality thing where they look at somebody and they break everything down into oppressors and oppressed, and somehow or another, because this person is less fortunate, they're just desperate to get in the United States. Maybe they're just a bad person.
Yeah, I think it could be as simple as that. Let's play Chris Cuomo real quick before we go to break. This is clip number 6, and you tell me if you think he's making a point or not here.
The division is almost exclusively manufactured. We are fighting over culture issues and controversies that are completely made up. We divide this country over a single homicide of somebody, and it's absolutely wrong. What happened to Laken Riley is horrible. It's one too many, any way you want to look at it. But it is also an artificial issue. We have crime issues in this country. Our homicide problem is not from illegal immigrants, okay? Yeah, but there shouldn't be any. There shouldn't be any of a lot of things that we haven't made a top priority. The division is manufactured.
Okay, so this was in regards to immigrants committing crimes, murders, things like that. I'm just going to say this because this is going to sound very insensitive. What if he said that on the anniversary of George Floyd's death and put it and applied it that way? Do you think he would have the guts to do that? Because I when I hear examples like that, I think to myself, that incident that happened in Minneapolis, look what that caused. And you want to talk about manufactured divisive nature of things in the billions of dollars of riots and damage and the nature of this country and lives lost.
One right.
You want to
Officer Dorn here in St. Louis lost his life in one of those
exactly.
riots.
And if you want to talk about some of these things manufactured, sure. So when you put it into that context, I don't think he'd have the guts to do it then. But man, people go out of their way to defend felons that are in the country illegally committing crimes, actively committing crimes, and then they say we're using this too much, and it's not really a true sense of where the American people are, and we're being too divisive when we tell people like that should be deported because, let's say, 1, judged orders, 2, they were in the country when they shouldn't have been to begin with, and 3, they're caught committing a crime, and when they're told to leave, they come back anyway, and we're the ones that are wrong for saying that no, they should not be allowed to reassimilate after that. I would like to ask the people on the CNN panels and the Chris Cuomos of the world if they would apply that same thing and that same logic to George Floyd. All right. Is that too insensitive to make that comparison?
No, I think that's an honest question. Let's ask the question. What is the difference?
Yep. All right. We're going to take a break. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in for Andy Fry. Don't go anywhere. 97.1 FM Talk.
And I was born in the backseat of a Greyhound bus, rolling down Highway 41.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Manny Fry Show. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
When it's time for leaving, I hope you'll understand that I was born a rambling man.
Cardinals fans, there are more ways this season to watch your Cardinals on FanDuel Sports Network. For the first time, you can subscribe directly to FanDuel Sports Network and stream the Cardinals without blackouts. Monthly, seasonal, and annual packages available. Also new this season, you can stream FanDuel Sports Network through Amazon Prime Video with an add-on subscription. As always, you can watch FanDuel Sports Network through TV providers including DirecTV, Spectrum, Xfinity, Fubo, and more. Visit Cardinals.com/TV to learn more.
Imagine this, a summer evening, relaxing under a beautiful porch overhang, hosting your friends on a composite deck, or enjoying a bug-free breeze in a screened room. That sounds dreamy, right? Hi, it's Kim, and that dream can be your reality with Lakeside Renovation and Design because they specialize in creating outdoor spaces that make your backyard the go-to spot for family and friends. And with their attention to detail and the high-quality materials they use, you'll have a space that lasts for years. Visit lakesiderd.com today to get started on your outdoor oasis.
Mizzou football is here to stay. After an undefeated home season and a second straight 10-win year, the Tigers are looking for more in 2025.
Eli and the boys have done it again.
With a top 10 transfer portal class and a strong home schedule highlighted by Kansas, Alabama, South Carolina, and Texas A&M, you don't want to miss out. Get your spot in line by joining the season ticket waitlist at mutigers.com/FB waitlist. MIZ.
Today's YouTube live chat poll: was DOGE a success? Press conference is still going on. Elon Musk is, doing his out interview, and we want to know what you think. Was DOGE a success? We got three options here for you. It's yes, it was a huge success. No, a total failure. Or yes, but there's still work to do. Now, if you want to vote in this poll, you just jump on YouTube, type in Annie Fry, find our stream there, and vote in the chat, and then leave us a message saying why you voted the way you voted. We want to know what you think. The time is 1:43, and this time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
JerryKelly.com.
The news is fast. Listening to your favorite show at 1.5 speed is even faster. Download the podcast of your favorite 97.1 show. Upload it to the Odyssey app every day. All for your listening convenience.
Yeah. You're not the type of girl to remain with the guy too shy, too afraid to say he'll give his heart to you forever. I'm not the boy that will fall to his knees with the dance class type.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Manny Fry Show.
What is this artist's name?
This is Andy Grammer.
I think that sounds like Ethan. That could be a voice double. If Ethan could sing, he would sound like that. Do you hear it?
Hold on. Yeah, I could hear it. I could definitely hear Ethan sing like Andy Grammer.
Ethan, I think maybe if I were you, I would start practicing, and then you can put together kind of like one of those tribute acts.
Ethan starting a Andy Grammer tribute group. That would be amazing.
Exactly.
That would be amazing.
I would love that so much.
It's funny because we had a conversation about Andy Grammer before the show.
Oh, I can guarantee you he'd be the only one in the country doing that.
I could almost guarantee you that he wouldn't be doing that.
All right. Well, it sounds like Donald Trump and Elon Musk are still in the Oval Office. Is it the exit interview going on still, Brad?
Yes, it is.
Can we dip in for a couple minutes? I'm just curious what they're talking about here.
The fundamental moral flaw of the left is empathy for the criminals and not empathy for the victims. Empathy for the criminals, but not empathy for the victims. And there's been way too much of that. That needs to stop. To the president's point, there's been immense judicial overreach that is unconstitutional. That was never intended. And it's undermining the people's faith in the legal system. It needs to stop. It's gone too far.
Mr.
Love it.
Just today, just a couple of hours ago, we had a great decision from the Supreme court, thank goodness. That was very important. We had two important decisions yesterday on the tariffs because, again, we have to be able to fight a fair fight with other countries. Howard, would you say? We have to be able to use tariffs to fight people that use tariffs on us. I mean, if we didn't have that power of tariffs, we would economically be destroyed as a country because they will destroy us. Other countries will destroy us with unchecked tariffs. We can check them when we have the use. They tried to take that power away from us. And if you take that power away, we're not going to have a country. We won't have an economically viable country. But it's very important on immigration that we be able to get people out without having to go through a long court case. I mean, it was up to some of these judges. Every single one of these millions of people, criminals, prisoners that were let go from jails because they save a fortune when they do. They brought them into the United States. You know what they're saving? The money they're saving? But some of murders, it's very important that we're able to get those people out of here fast, bring them back to their country where they belong. And those countries take them, because if they don't take them, they have to go through the wrath of the United States, and they take them. But we have judges that don't want that to happen. And it's a terrible thing. That's going through the court system right now, that whole situation. But when ICE and with Border Patrol, they've done an incredible job. When they do this incredible job and they capture 100 killers and drug dealers, and we can't keep them for years here as we go through trials. We have to get them out rapidly, and we know who they are. And we're very careful about who they are, but we have to get them out rapidly, or again, we're not going to have a country. Okay? Maybe one or two more. Go ahead.
Are you concerned that tariff may also affect companies like Tesla, which has parts manufactured abroad? And this is also to you, Mr. Musk.
Well, he's going to end up building his whole car here. I mean, I thought he built his whole car. Pretty much he does. He's got incredible factories, and like I looked at one in Texas. It's unbelievable. No, all of the manufacturers will build their parts here too. I mean, it used to bother me. They make a part in Canada, a part in Mexico, a part in Europe, and sent all over the place, and nobody knew what the hell was happening. I think it's ridiculous. You build a car, make it in America, and I gave them a little leeway on that, gave them some leeway. But over the next year, they've got to have the whole thing built in America. That's what we want. We want America to buy American-built cars. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Ooh. Number one, in radio, you couldn't have ducked in at a better time.
Oh,
Brad.
man, that was crazy.
That was perfect. Do you think they were listening to our show during the press conference? Like Elon had an earpiece in and he just was waiting to hear what we were saying? Because he pretty much said exactly what we said in the last segment.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I can confirm that the Annie Fry Show has been played on Air Force One and listened to on Air Force One.
What?
Yeah.
What's that story? I
Well,
have to hear that.
Friend of the show, Will Scharf, he's the secretary in the White House, and he actually sent me a picture. What was it? A couple days ago. It was the day they were coming back from the Middle East trip, and he said I was talking to him about some other stuff, and he said his head was spinning. He goes, "But I'm on Air Force One right now, and I'm glad to be getting home." And I was like, "Are you on Air Force One?" And and then he sent me a picture. And it's like listening to the Annie Fry Show, and on official Air Force One letterhead, it was a picture of the desk and everything. So it's pretty cool.
That is so cool. All right. Well, look at the power of this program and radio station. But we really couldn't have ducked in at a better spot. Elon Musk is 100% right on. Now, when it comes to the car question, not what I was going to talk about, but I do want to bring this up. It's going to be so hard for these car manufacturers to actually build all the parts in the United States. It's going to be nearly impossible for them to do that within the next year, to even get the infrastructure in place for them to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that timeline year is realistic or not. I think one interesting thing is that the United Auto Workers, UAW, who hated Donald Trump during the presidential election, and Sean Fain, the leader of it, was very vocal, speaking at the DNC convention, all these things, was actually on Trump's side when it comes to bringing these jobs back into America. It's like, okay, now you're talking my language. But don't you understand that's been his whole point this whole time? Like all these times you've been criticizing him, his whole point is essentially what you've been fighting for. And now you have the greatest advocate because Joe Biden didn't fight for that. No Democrat ever fought for that. I mean, they were trying to make things more friendly to make business overseas possible so these companies could cut down costs. I get it. It costs less to buy a vehicle when you have this happening in Mexico, for example. But Donald Trump said, you know what, get the infrastructure here. Let's build in America where then you don't have to worry about all these other tariffs and problems and supply chain issues where you can't get things from China because of a pandemic. So he's saying, you know what, you'll save money in the long run and you'll be creating American jobs and we'll be getting stronger together because of it. And that was like unions loved hearing that. And I don't know why they were trashing him so much when his whole message has been essentially we need to enrich the American economy and the workers as opposed to making other countries workers and countries rich off of our backs.
Yeah, I don't get it either. And like the other thing I'd point out too is onshoring manufacturing like this. Like I know that people mocked him. It's like, oh, Americans aren't going to want to make sweatshirts and socks and tennis shoes. And it's like, that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about automobiles. He's talking about pharmaceuticals. He's talking about chips. He's talking about all of these major things. And those are all national security issues. If you know history at all, you know what won World War II was American manufacturing. It was our ability to build faster than anybody could destroy anything that we had. And we need to get back to the point where we can ramp up manufacturing again. So if you're building cars here, you have car lines that can be switched over to make war machines. You got all of that stuff. That's national security stuff. You don't have to rely on China for the pharmaceuticals that keep people in your country healthy. You don't have to rely on Taiwan and South Korea for the chips that you put in the weapons that you use to fight wars. You don't have to rely on that. You build it here.
That's a fantastic point when it comes to the history of going back to the manufacturing that happened here in the United States. Wow, Brad, that's actually fantastic context to put that into, because it is. And that way, when you think about national security, you don't necessarily think about the manufacturing and what's possible. You normally think about like, okay, we don't want to be out of oil because we rely on the Saudis too much. So that's why we want more drilling here and the companies here to be able to keep it on this side of the hemisphere as opposed to transporting the stuff in barrels from the other side of the world. So we don't want to be able to be cut off and what that'll mean for us. But the manufacturing side is really important, because if we didn't have the infrastructure to manufacture certain things that you mentioned, then we'd be real trouble if, let's say, they create alliances with countries that are not friendly to us, Iran and China and whatnot, or Russia. And that's fantastic. All right, coming up after the break, we're going to talk to Brad Young about this, but the Supreme Court will allow Donald Trump to revoke Biden's parole program. 2 Supreme Court justices were against it, Jackson and Sotomayor. And is it Sotomayor or Sotomayor? It looks like Sotomayor. I don't. That's a very fancy way to say it. Like if you didn't know how that was pronounced, would you say Sotomayor? Not a chance. But Donald Trump talked about it just very briefly at the end there. This is such a big thing, which is we know that there are, and it goes 100% back to what we were talking about before the break. We know that there are criminals, ones that have committed felonies, that have taken other people's lives, domestic violence, have entered the country multiple times, almost in some cases double-digit times. And we know who those people are. And if they're in our jail, they're going to release them because they say, well, it's costing us too much money to house these people. So why not, while we're going through the immigration process, send them back to their country of origin and let them try to apply to get into the United States, as opposed to letting them live here indefinitely their entire lives to continue to create havoc on innocent people. And Elon Musk said exactly, almost word for word, what I said. We're so sympathetic to people that break the laws, and we're not as sympathetic to the victims when there's no justice, when a loved one is taken away from them or they were wronged by someone. And then they have to, pretend like there was no damage done to their life, physical or mental damage to their lives. We just have to live it out and say, no, we have to be bigger humanitarians to allow these people that have created all this havoc and problems in society to continue to do the same, or we're the ones that are the problem. Elon Musk 100% right. So I don't know what's next for Elon Musk, but I'm looking forward to seeing what he does, and I really hope that they continue on with this legacy. It's only been a couple of months in office. I tell you, the first 5 months of the Trump presidency feels like 5 years, doesn't it? With all the things that have been happening,
it's great.
Whew. But that Supreme Court hearing, or at least that Supreme Court case that rules in favor of Donald Trump, and when it comes to revoking the Biden parole program for illegal immigrants, that's a big one. We'll talk to Brad Young coming up after the break. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in for Annie Fry, 97.1 FM Talk.
And it's never easy.
For many people, the summer is anniversary season. A lot of people getting married in June, which means maybe you've got a special anniversary coming up. Make sure you shop at the Diamond Shop this summer for that very special person in your life. If you're looking to mark a special occasion, never miss the opportunity to take advantage of some of the amazing sales that the Diamond Shop has for you. One thing that stands out about the Diamond Shop is they are an educational store. They want to educate you as a customer. They want to listen to you as a customer because they want you to be very confident in your purchase at the Diamond Shop. When you walk out, you become an ambassador for the Diamond Shop. They do more than sell jewelry. They also do custom jewelry and watch repair, appraisals, and they even buy gold. They have special financing available with 6 months same as cash, and they are located in Clayton, in St. Louis since 1910, but you can go visit them in their store in Clayton today. Find them online right now at thediamondshop.net.
What's your favorite four-letter word? Chances are you've said it more than a few times dealing with this crazy world we live in. But at Compass Retirement Solutions, our four-letter word of choice is hope. Hope for a better tomorrow. And hope that your retirement plans don't take a back seat. You've watched inflation soar, and maybe your retirement future feels a little uncertain right now. But all hope is not lost. Find out exactly how much risk you're still taking with your investments. Find out how you may be able to save big on taxes. And find out how having a written retirement plan just might give you the hope you've been looking for. Call today to set up a meeting. 314-373-1598. That's 314-373-1598. Compass Retirement Solutions. 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services but does not provide tax advice. Investments and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory firm in Missouri and Illinois. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
When someone hears the words, "You have cancer," it's one of the darkest moments in their life. Light the Night brings light to the darkness of cancer by uniting survivors, patients, and supporters in the cause to end cancer. Friends, families, and coworkers form a community of hope, raising funds in support of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Together, we walk with lanterns held high to light the path to cures. Last year alone, the FDA approved 18 new drug therapies and treatments to treat blood cancers. The impact of LLS-supported research goes beyond blood cancer. The discoveries made in blood cancer research have led to breakthrough treatments for many cancers and other serious diseases. When we walk, cancer runs. Join the movement to end cancer today. Visit us at lightthenight.org.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
The president stays the course. Lisa Brady, Fox News. President Trump calling tariffs important and calling an appeals court ruling allowing his tariffs to continue for now a great moment.
And hopefully now we'll go to court and just win that battle. Because if we don't have the power to do what they're doing to us, we are going to be a great nation no longer.
Also saying he'll speak to China's president and hopefully work out their differences after accusing China of violating a recent agreement that led to a pause on higher tariffs. China accusing the U.S. of discriminatory restrictions. The president taking questions in the Oval Office during a joint news conference with Elon Musk, who just wrapped up his time leading the Department of Government Efficiency, saying they achieved more than $160 billion in savings. The goal is more than $1 trillion.
This is not the end of DOGE, but really the beginning.
Musk says the DOGE team and DOGE influence will only grow stronger over time.
It's like a way of life. So it is permeating throughout the government, and I'm confident that over time we'll see $1 trillion of savings and a reduction in $1 trillion of waste and fraud reduction.
He also says he'll continue to be a friend and advisor to the president, who calls him a patriot and good person. Democrats say DOGE work has been unconstitutional and accuse Republicans of cruel cuts. The president starting that event by highlighting positive news for the economy, including lower inflation and higher personal income.
Also, the U.S. trade deficit in goods plunged in April to $87.6 billion after a record of $162.3 billion in March. It's a sign that companies pulled back on importing products last month after stockpiling in April.
Fox's Ginny Cosola. An hour to the close on Wall Street. Stocks turning mixed. The Dow's now up 35 points. America is listening to Fox News.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group. And I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney. And the truth is, I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. At Wesley, we've helped over 40,000 families cancel their timeshare, and I want to share with you how we do it. Just give my office a call. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare, or you'll pay nothing. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-790-1400. 800-790-1400. 800-790-1400.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Good looking weather on this Friday afternoon. Mostly sunny skies. It's a little bit breezy, but boy, is it nice. 78 for the high. Tonight, clear skies. Wonderful this evening. 63 for the low. The weekend, Saturday sunny. Warm it up to 84 in the afternoon. 63 and clear Saturday night. Sunday sunny, and let's pop it to 87. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Have you called the Retirement Advisory Group yet? You hear us talking about them all the time because they're the best. They care about you, and honestly, a huge part of their clientele, like almost all of it, is from 97.1 listeners just like yourself, from Annie Fry Show listeners who understand that this transition in life where you're moving into retirement is really exciting, and it's also kind of scary because what if you don't make the right moves? Can you count on what you've saved to pay off in those retirement years? Reach out to the Retirement Advisory Group at 314-993-9494, 314-993-9494, and forget about those worries that you have about losing your nest egg in the next market correction. Put yourself in the hands of the Retirement Advisory Group, and they'll set you on the path to peaceful excitement about what's lying ahead for you in those retirement years. They'll be able to show you how much income you're going to have in retirement and also how long your money will last. 314-993-9494. Find them online right now at retirementkey.com.
Mizzou football is here to stay. After an undefeated home season and a second straight 10-win year, the Tigers are looking for more in 2025.
Eli and the boys have done it again.
With a top 10 transfer portal class and a strong home schedule highlighted by Kansas, Alabama, South Carolina, and Texas A&M, you don't want to miss out. Get your spot in line by joining the season ticket waitlist at mutigers.com/FB waitlist. MIZ.
Hey guys, it's Mark Reardon. If you're struggling with low energy, performance issues, or weight gain, Game Day Men's Health has got you covered with testosterone therapy, ED treatments, and more in all of a relaxed man cave environment. At Game Day, you'll get a free testosterone test and consultation, all in just 1 hour. Game Day is the premier men's health clinic with locations in Chesterfield, O'Fallon, Missouri, and Glen Carbon, Illinois. Visit GameDayMen'sHealth.com. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Get back in the game with Game Day Men's Health.
Guys, it's time to take charge of your health with my friends at Victory Men's Health. Mark Cox here. I already love what they do at Victory. They do hormone optimization, sexual health, weight loss, even vitamin deficiencies. Now they're offering specialty cardiovascular testing and even early detection cancer screening. Visit them at one of their 4 great locations, now in Sunset Hills, Town and Country, O'Fallon, Missouri, and O'Fallon, Illinois. Tell them Mark Cox sent you. Go to VictoryMen'sHealth.com.
Is thinning hair or receding hairline making you self-conscious? Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
They got someone here knows what they're talking about.
Left up, left right.
Gotta love this American ride.
You need to take some time to get the full picture.
Come on, turn the radio on. It's Saturday and I won't be long.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
Got it.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid, keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Fry Show.
Okay,
so funny.
forgive me. We have some breaking news just in from the Supreme Court. This is a 7-2 ruling involving justices now allowing the Trump administration to revoke protected status for 500,000 immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela while the appeals process plays out.
That was the breaking news on MSNBC earlier, CNBC, one of them. But that was the big ruling from the Supreme Court today. And joining us now to talk the Supreme Court, he is someone that, if I had to guess, dreams about the Supreme Court at night. He thinks about it so often. Brad Young, how are you?
Ryan, hey, buddy, it's great. It's always great to talk to you, my friend.
And yeah, I could imagine sometimes your wife shakes you at night. Honey, were you having another Supreme Court nightmare? She's like trying to help you.
No, what she does is sometimes she catches me putting on a black robe and looking in the mirror. She does catch me doing that.
Ooh, the inseam, so nice. Yeah. So, Brad Young, it's always a great opportunity to talk legal questions with you. And I know that you follow the Supreme Court blogs. I don't know if this one was much as a surprise to you, but I think it kind of took some of the commentators, especially on MSNBC, off guard. So the Supreme Court will allow Donald Trump to revoke the parole program that was put in by Joe Biden. And it was a 7-2 ruling. So it wasn't even that close, all things considered. Maybe you can break down what this ruling means.
Well, first and foremost, and my voice, I'm just recovering from a cold. So if my voice cracks, I assure you I'm not going through puberty. But I will break it down this way. Remember, this is not a final judgment on the merits of the case. This is just, it was an appeal because the lower courts ruled that while this matter goes through the court system, the issue of whether Trump can revoke the immigration status of 500,000 immigrants who were here in this country, not permanently, not green card people, but people who are just here on the lower tier status of being in this country. The lower court said that during this time, the Trump administration cannot deport these individuals while the case moves forward. So that was appealed. And so the only issue, not on the merits, the only issue was whether this order from the lower court should be held or stayed, or whether it should not be held or stayed. And that was the only issue before the court. That's why it was an 8-page opinion, not like an 80-page opinion like they normally are. And so the Supreme Court held 7-2, as you mentioned, Ryan, that the Trump administration can proceed with the deportation of these individuals, even though the legal issues in the underlying matter are still moving through the lower court system.
Now, does that surprise you a little bit? Because from some of our previous conversations, you mentioned that when it comes to the Supreme Court, they normally try to uphold a lot of what was already set in stone, precedent. Well, maybe set in stone is not the right word. But what the lower courts may have said, they take that into consideration. And it's really hard for them to, I guess, go against precedent in some way. So Did it surprise you that they said, okay, we're going to let this play out before it ultimately could reach us again? Does that surprise you a little?
It does surprise me, but for a completely different reason. When I talked about the Supreme Court, generally speaking, wants to honor prior decisions, those are prior final decisions, not prior interim decisions. So I'm going to use a fancy word, and there's something called an interlocutory order. And an interlocutory order, I know it sounds fancy, but it's just
German
means,
metal band.
Yeah, it does. That'd be a great name for a German metal band. That would be. I'll have to remember that. So that's just a fancy way of saying it's an order, because there's lots of orders in a case as it moves through the court system. Lots and lots of them. And so this is one of those. It's not a final award. It was just one of many awards or orders that occur in the course of a trial. So the Supreme Court doesn't have any bias one way or the other about upholding or not upholding those because they're not final decisions.
Okay.
But let me jump in it this way though, Ryan, and that is I was somewhat surprised. I was kind of betting it would be 5-4 in favor of putting a stay on it, and here's why. One of the elements when you're asking for an order to be stayed or held in abeyance, one of the standards is this: will any parties be negatively impacted by a stay and or the refusal to stay the order? And so when you put this on the proverbial scales of justice and you say, who's going to be harmed more, the people who could get deported even though their cases are still in litigation, or the Trump administration, which can wait until this case moves through the courts before they initiate deportation orders? I thought they would say it's more harmful to the individuals who get packed on a bus or put on a plane and flown out of the country. But in a 7-2, even Elena Kagan, liberal justice Elena Kagan, even she voted in the majority to say it would do more harm to America if these deportations could not move forward.
Wow. Is there any consideration to the thought that, okay, if a executive and the president of the United States and the executive branch has the power to make this happen, they also have the power to make it not happen, meaning that you can look at what authority Joe Biden had, and if he had the authority to put it forward, then Donald Trump would have the also same authority to remove it. Is there any consideration there?
Well, I think that's a given. The issue, I don't know that there was a strong legal theory, if any legal theory, that said the president didn't have the power to revoke their status because the president had the power to grant that status. But the issue was whether these people could be deported now, even though their cases are still in litigation. I think that was the main thrust of the legal argument.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Well, that makes sense. And they're talking to a lot of people. Sometimes when you think about that, was it 500,000, 500,000 roughly?
Correct.
From just these countries. So this is a pretty huge win. So in the case now, can the Trump administration, when it comes to immigration enforcement, act immediately? Can they just okay, they got the green light to do what they were going to do anyway?
Yes, they can start deportation, the deportation process immediately, Ryan. They can start it today if they wish. And by the way, let me circle back. You mentioned one thing earlier about MSNBC wasn't happy with this, but I don't know if you know this, but the Department of Justice has determined that they're going to start using MSNBC as the place to hide out people in the witness protection program because nobody will ever find them if they're on the air at MSNBC.
What are some of the other cases that the Supreme Court are mulling over at the moment? Are there any other big ones that you're waiting on a decision?
Well, we've just recently had some of the bigger decisions from the Supreme Court on a lot of issues. And listen, there will be law classes in future law schools that will be doing nothing more than studying the constitutional issues raised by the Trump administration. And like I've been saying for this year so far, and during the 4 years of Trump 1 administration, sometimes he gets it right, sometimes he gets it wrong. And so if you hear anybody saying that everything Trump's doing is wrong, then they're not an analyst. That's an opinion. If you hear anyone saying everything that Trump's doing is completely constitutional and legal, that's not analysis either. That's an opinion. So you've got to look at each of these issues on a case-by-case, issue-by-issue basis. Like, for example, we saw the big issue that came out of the Federal Trade Court this week, stating that Trump's use of tariffs violated the 1977 delegation of tariff power from Congress to the president. Now, I don't know that that's going to stand on appeal. I think the Supremes might overturn that. But even if they don't, Trump's got lots of other venues, lots of other statutes to fall back on when it comes to instituting tariffs. So we have not even begun to see the end of this tariff issue.
What would Donald Trump's batting average be in court? Like, roughly speaking, what's a success rate?
Well, if he were in baseball, he would go down. He would be in Pete Rose territory because he's probably batting in the high 300s, low 400s. So, I mean, for baseball, that's fantastic. In the court system, not so much.
Below 500 is not great.
He's below 500, not great.
Yeah. Are there any surprises that you see in the legal system anymore, or does nothing surprise you the more you analyze it?
Well, the thing that I think is the most surprising, and we're just used to this now, but when I started this analyzing Supreme Court cases, a couple of decades ago, things moved very slowly. It would take weeks and months and sometimes years to see how these things play out. Now you're getting opinions same day, next day, a couple of days later. And that is completely different than the way it used to be, Ryan. And I don't see that ever reversing. I mean, we're expecting the Supreme Court to issue decisions just like on Law and Order. You got 44 minutes to reach a decision and to get it out. And that's what we expect now from the Supreme Court because we've seen it on Law and Order.
All right. So what are the odds that some of these different clerks have used AI when writing up summaries? Is that possible at that level?
I would say the chances are zero because let me tell you why. If it ever got out that they used AI, they would be shamed for their entire career. The whole thing about being a clerk for the justices, the whole thing is you are the best of the best of the best of the best of the best. And if you got caught using AI, I don't think it would be illegal, but you would be shamed and laughed out of the legal community. And that's the only reason you take those jobs. They don't pay anything. You only take them so you can parlay that into an associate's position at a silk stocking law firm and with a starting salary of $400K a year. That's the only reason you do that. And if you got caught using AI, you're flushing all that down the toilet.
All right. Well, they can keep secrets there at the Supreme Court. So did they ever find out who leaked the Dobbs decision early? That never happened, right?
It didn't, but it's interesting you mentioned that, Ryan, because just this week, Kash Patel came out and said that they've been investigating it since he came into office, and there's going to be some announcements on that soon. So, we heard nothing during the Biden administration about the results of an FBI investigation, but hopefully we're going to hear something in the near future because it's important. We don't want these Supreme Court decisions leaked before they're final. It's detrimental to the country. It erodes the credibility of the court. We just don't want that happening, and we need to get to the bottom of it.
Wasn't it an internal investigation that the Supreme Court did of itself to try to find the leaker?
They did. And then the FBI wasn't called in because it's a separation of powers issue, because the executive branch, they didn't want the executive branch reviewing the judicial branch. But the FBI did its own investigation on the individuals without actually having access to the computer networks at the Supreme Court. So we've got kind of a cross investigation going on regarding, who could have possibly leaked this information.
I'll tell you, back in 2022, there wasn't an organization more trustworthy than the FBI. There's a lot. Well, okay. With all these different investigations going on, I didn't realize that Kash Patel was looking into the leak at the Supreme Court when it came to that Dobbs decision. I knew that he mentioned it's hard not to imagine it wasn't Hunter Biden's cocaine, but the cocaine that was at the White House and some of these other things I kind of forgot about. They said, okay, we're going to at least release a better understanding of what happened there because there was practically zero transparency when it came to the Biden administration. I didn't know Dobbs was on that list of something that's the next document dumps. All right.
It's on that list, but it's really important what Brad Range just said, and that is that the Supreme Court would not allow the FBI to come in. You mentioned, Ryan, they're all about secrets. They are. But remember, this is an organization that back in the 1970s, there were Supreme Court justices in the basement watching porn films to see whether or not, to see whether or not they violated community standards and could be banned by the First Amendment, or whether they had First Amendment rights. So, excuse me. So this is they pop popcorn is what the story is. But I but I don't want to really think about that too much more. But the point is that they are a very secretive bunch. They don't want anyone looking up their proverbial black robes, and because of that, they wouldn't let the FBI come in and do its own internal investigation.
It's very serious business with the Supreme Court. It's such a weird thing to do. Do you think they were surrounded by their colleagues watching this together and taking notes? I've never heard or understood that. I guess in the case of a court, when you're in the Supreme Court level, that you would have to do some analysis and research, and that would be part of it. That's strange to me, I guess.
Well, it was documented in a book called The Brethren, which was a fantastic book where ex-Supreme Court clerks dished on what they did when they were clerks, and this came out in the 1970s. It was a Bob Woodward book, as I recall. So that was one of the segments when they had to determine whether porn movies were enjoyed, so to speak, First Amendment protection or not, and so they had to watch them. And they had to make determinations. So that was something that you could certainly laugh about. But that was really the first book, and to this day, one of the only books that gives a peek into how the Supremes actually work, how they interact with the justices they disagree with philosophically, the procedures that they go through to reach decisions. And so that's really the only way that we know how this process works, is from books like The Brethren and others.
All right. Brad Young, Harris, Dowell, Fisher, and Young. And you are, I'm so glad that you were able to spend some time with us. I know that you're a busy guy and you charge by the hour, so we can only afford 15 minutes at a time.
I know, but that's the thing, Ryan. You've now used 23 minutes. So so now I gotta bill you for the whole hour.
He started the oh man, he started the meter.
We're in trouble here. I would have loved you hold up your phone. There's a stopwatch going.
Yeah, I got it right here. See, I got it right here.
Brad Young, it's always a pleasure, and it's good to see you on the live video feed too. That's really nice.
It's great to talk to you, my friend. And listen, I will be listening to you filling in for George Norrie over this weekend, right?
No, it was last weekend. So
I missed it. I thought it was this weekend.
Didn't stay up late. Okay, if you can stay up late a month from now, June 27th and 28th, it's a Friday night and Saturday night. If you can do those two, those are the next time
I'll be checking that out in June.
You know what? I feel like I charge like a lawyer. The network rate that they give you for a fill-in host is like a lawyer rate. So I'm like in a different league now.
Oh, well. Let me know if you need some tips on a great accountant, because you know the difference. You know the difference between a good accountant and a great accountant, right? A good accountant tells you how much you made. A great accountant says, how much do you want to make?
Yes, that's right, Brad Young.
So I've got a great accountant for you.
Brad Young joining us here, 97.1's chief legal analyst and great treasure to St. Louis. You're listening to the Annie Fry Show, 97.1 FM Talk.
This is the Annie Fry Show. The Annie Fry Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Civia Law is there to help you through life's transitions. That means when you need assistance with your legal needs, especially in the areas of estate planning and elder law, Todd Civia and the staff at Civia Law is there to make that transition wonderful. 833-995-WILL, 833-995-WILL. There's so much peace of mind that comes through planning, and Civia Law can help you do that. They will help you with your wills, trusts, your powers of attorney, and they have a 2-week turnaround for completed documents from that initial sit-down appointment. And if you call Todd Civia and the staff at Civia Law on both sides of the river at 833-995-WILL right now, they are giving the first 10 listeners, after this ad airs, they're giving the first 10 listeners a free strategy session. That's a $300 value for you. 833-995-WILL. Call Todd Civia and Civia Law today. They have 7 locations across the Illinois and Missouri area to serve you best. 833-995-WILL. Find them online at civialaw.com.
Do you know about the true crimes that inspired a Bruce Springsteen album? Or the murders AC/DC was blamed for? How about Taylor Swift's Violent Stalkers? Or the suspicious deaths of Brittany Murphy and River Phoenix? These stories and more are told in the Disgraceland podcast, hosted by me, Jake Brennan, every Tuesday, where I dive deep into subjects from the dark side of music history and entertainment. So follow and listen to Disgraceland on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Del Walmsley interviews Chad and Lisa.
This property, for you to have done what you've done, won the award, changed it around, done all the rehab, has got to be worth a lot more.
We purchased it for $8.275, and it's worth $19 million now. So
wait, whoa. That is incredible. I can see why you won an award, and that's great.
Lifestyles Unlimited. Over 33 years teaching the real estate retirement roadmap. Text the word radio to 88007 for a $297 membership. Save $443 off the regular price. Text radio to 88007.
You've been listening to the very popular Wellness One for many years, Saturdays and Sundays on 97.1 FM Talk. We're happy to share that we've expanded the show to 4 times a week. Yes, 4 times every weekend. Saturday at 10 a.m., Saturday at 8 p.m., Sunday at 9 a.m., and Sunday at 2 p.m. It's the same great show designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you a common sense, science-based strategy for a healthy life. So join TJ and Aaron for Wellness One. Now 4 times a week on 97.1 FM Talk.
It's been more than 60 years since St. Louis was hit by a tornado of the scale we're witnessing. The Salvation Army has been in St. Louis providing relief for over 160 years and responded immediately following the latest round of storms. How can you help? The Salvation Army needs monetary donations so that needs can be addressed immediately. And as we look to long-term recovery, 100% of donations go directly to storm survivors. Donate at salarmy.us/mid-disaster. Or call 1-800-SAL-ARMY.
You're listening to the Annie Fry Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is celebrating 55 years of residential and commercial service, maintenance, and installation of heating and cooling systems. Get in your comfort zone. Visit aircomfortservice.com.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Manny Fry Show. The Annie Fry Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
And welcome back. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in for Annie Fry. Thank you so much for giving us a listen here as we get so close to the weekend. Brad, you do such a good job putting the show together. I really appreciate that.
I do my best, and sometimes I feel like I do better jobs than others.
Oh, you're saying you're better than other people?
No. I do better. I do my job better some days than I do other days.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
I am better than some other people, though. So
I'm definitely better than some other people. So would this count as traditional media, 97.1, this radio program?
Radio station? Yeah, I would think talk radio would be traditional media.
Okay. So J.D. Vance was talking about traditional media, and it's kind of interesting because we've gone through such a large expansion of entertainment over the last couple of decades. Before you had options such as radio, then you had television, then you had cable basically came around, you had CDs and records, and those have been around for a long time too. I guess if you want to consider comedy albums, perhaps maybe early podcasts, something like that, non-music essentially. Then you had, speeches and other things that were put on for historical context. But then, you get a little bit further, and then there's the invention of the internet, and people are sharing videos and audio in some crude ways. You're able to go download certain things onto your computer, mostly viruses in the early days, but still. And then there was websites like YouTube that made it very possible to share videos. It was a kind of a novel concept. And now we're at the point where people are taking advantage of the internet, where they became their own broadcaster, and the non-traditional ways that people are able to bring topics up that never would have been aired on a radio or television program. And J.D. Vance was talking about this in some ways, traditional media, and the ways that people are not viewing it like they used to. I think this is clip number 12. Can we play that?
I'd love to see the media reform. I'm not sure if they're psychologically capable of doing it, Greg. But, I mean, look, your network taking off is a big evidence of this. You see the creation of this massive podcast ecosystem. People are tuning out traditional media. As you know, they've got a lower approval rating traditional media does than Congress, which is actually a very hard thing to do. It's almost a skill in and of itself to have a lower approval rating than Congress, but somehow CBS and NBC and ABC have managed to do it. But look, I think these things tend to happen gradually. You're going to see the rise of alternative media. It's already happening. It's going to accelerate.
All right. I don't take it personally myself.
No.
No. Is he right, you think?
Yeah, in a way. I think he's more referring to like the ABC, CBS's, NBC's of the world, the big people that have controlled how information gets communicated, well, since they started, basically.
Right.
I don't think that he's talking about, local talk radio. I don't think he's referring to that because those places are so like you can find a local talk radio show that's like ours here, or you could find one that is about something completely different. You got, even our sister station over at KMOX, they're a different style. So there's not a one size fits all, but like the mainstream media, when he's talking about like the days of Uncle Walter Cronkite as the as the source of trusted news, those days are over. They're not able to control things the way they are. They'll never go away, but their days of being the standard by which everybody judges themselves, the standard by which everybody gets their information from, that's long gone. And they did it to themselves, which is what is wild to me.
It's an interesting point. They did it to themselves. What do you think the motivation was for them that kind of piled on to the problem? Is it more or less that they were more ideologically driven? You think that might be the reason why? Or could it be profit driven? So they fragmented further like Fox News so successfully did? What do you think is the reason why they did it to themselves?
Oh, I don't think it's profit driven because if you look at their numbers, CBS is trying to sell off portions of its news. CNN went through overturn. Numbers are down for MSNBC and these other places. I really think it was ideological because there is definitely an ideological bend to whatever it is that they present. Always. I mean, we listen to those clips with CNN on that panel with Scott Jennings and Kevin O'Leary and Abby Phillip, and they're defending a guy who really doesn't need to be defended. It's like, well, it's more important that you know that Donald Trump's administration might be presenting some false information about this guy. Not that this guy, like, the point is the guy's a bad guy.
Yeah.
But they're more concerned with talking about how the administration messed up by possibly sharing something about him that wasn't true. And they don't want to talk about all the things that we definitely know that he did do.
Yep. It's kind of like they were looking for another example of that MS-13 gang member that was deported, and they're trying to find,
the
something
Maryland
else.
dad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maryland dad, huh? The dude was a bad hombre. I guess that would be the way to put it. So I could see that. It's kind of interesting. I think back when Donald Trump was running for office the first time is when you first started getting a little better understanding of how some of these journalists worked it. And I think they were a little bit more open about it when they would say things like, it's our duty to make sure this guy's not elected. So it was their job to make sure Donald Trump doesn't get in office.
Not your job.
That is really not your job. And I find that honest conversations, and even if you don't have all the answers, are much more appealing when it comes to finding the truth than what any journalist seems to offer through their investigations. So I'll use Larry King as an example because I think this is an early adopter of this. He would bring so many different types of people onto his show to discuss all kinds of different angles. He would bring dictators from other countries onto his show to discuss topics like that. I mean, if you think about it, in today's world, using the same logic, people that's like unheard of. You're not allowed to talk to other foreign entities if they're unfriendly to the United States, even if you're not going to treat them as a friendly. You're just treating them as someone you're discussing a topic on, and gives them the opportunity to tell their side of it, even if you know their side of it's wrong, but they still gives them an opportunity. But Larry King was really good at that. And plus he took phone calls where people would be able to ask their own questions if you didn't think Larry did a good enough job of trying to tell the full story. And, I admire that. But if you look at the podcasting and the different shows of independent media today, a lot of them are structured like that if they're successful. And Joe Rogan comes to mind.
Yeah.
I think Joe Rogan is not an expert of anything, like maybe MMA. He's an expert of that.
He's curious.
And he's curious. He might be an expert when it comes to things like drugs too. I'll put that on there. Like he studies that a lot, and maybe some of this paranormal stuff. He studies that a lot too. But all things considered, I don't think he would turn away. Well, I don't know. Didn't he turn Donald Trump down at first for the same reasons, I guess? But then Donald Trump turned him down eventually. But I think that the Joe Rogan style is something that's more attracting listeners and viewership because of the unscripted curiosity nature of it, as opposed to him trying to tell you, I know all the answers and let me tell you what they are, and you have to believe me, which is what traditional media has relied on for all these decades.
Yeah.
What about this? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you have a great point with Joe Rogan, because when you were talking about Larry King and how he would just have anybody on and he would talk to anybody, I thought the immediate first person that popped into my brain was Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan will talk to anybody. I've seen him talk to the president of the United States or Donald Trump before he was president, but it was Donald Trump running for president. So I'm talking to him. I've seen him talk to Elon Musk. You see him talk to people on the left. I've even seen him talk to like, and then you take it and he talks to guys that are experts on fungus and like how that plays a role in the world, and just naturists, people that understand war. He's just all over the place with it, and he'll have anybody on his show, and he'll actually have two people on his show that have different ideas on the same topic, and he'll let them debate, and then he just asks questions. He's like the modern day Larry King, but because of that curiosity, people are just drawn to him.
Well, Larry King, to a certain point, kind of turned away from that some towards his later years, but still, nonetheless. But Donald Trump, toventually went on Joe Rogan's program, and I think it was his son, Barron, said, Dad, you got to do it. And what a great move that was towards the end.
Yeah.
And very smart. And you look at where Kamala Harris was going. She was going on, what was it? Women.
Call her daddy.
And stop me if I'm wrong, if I'm trying to remember correctly, but essentially the podcast is known for women being loose and encouraging that. It's essentially it.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I've never listened to the podcast. I know that is an aspect of it.
Right. And then, of course, you had surrogates like Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, on her knees taking communion to go out there and talk about Kamala Harris. And then later saying, oh, no, it was just a viral trend. It wasn't a slight towards Catholics by any means, or Christians in that, for that matter. But it's such a weird, crazy, stupid thing that to intentionally do.
It's a viral trend doesn't mean that it isn't a slight toward Catholics. It could be both.
So, yeah. Well, keep in mind the audience that they were part of was probably anti-faith by all means, 100% against it. So let's look at the contrast and compare the different audiences that these two different people went for. You had a Donald Trump that went to an open conversation and would talk for hours about anything you wanted to and was real and open. And then you have the other side, which is the basically what the Kamala Harrises of the world, they relied so heavily on men are going to take away your rights, women, and they're going to basically put you back in the kitchen, and you're not going to be able to vote, and you're not going to have any say about your reproductive rights, and they're going to outlaw everything that makes you a woman, which we can't define what that is, but they're going to do it. And of course, they just hate minorities. So it's basically, we're going to go out there and just talk about how hateful everyone else is, and that's going to help us win this. And the other side, Donald Trump, is like, let's talk about anything, and these are the problems in America. Let's fix them. And no wonder why one was more powerful than the other one. What about this lawsuit? We played a little bit of clip of this yesterday, but CNN is really fretting about this lawsuit Donald Trump has about CBS and the way that they deceptively edited and changed the perception. And now keep in mind, other lawsuits have been settled in the past where they've lied about Donald Trump, saying he's a rapist, like the Stephanopoulos thing. And he had to come out and apologize for it. So CBS also in the middle of this lawsuit. Yesterday, we played that complete mess of an audio file where they were just talking over each other, saying that, this is the president of the United States. He's only doing this to hold up a deal with Paramount because they're trying to go through a merger, and he's trying to extort as much money as possible from them for doing that. So they talked about it again, and they're looking at it in the term of freedom of press. And can we play clip 13? This is Sarah Fisher from CNN.
There is a big lawsuit right now between Paramount, which is the parent company to CBS News, and Donald Trump. The lawsuit that Donald Trump waged against Paramount last year was over an interview that he alleged is, amounts to voter fraud because he says it boosted Kamala Harris. But if CBS settles, which is something that I'm watching for in the next few days or weeks, it will have enormous repercussions. The press freedom community says that it would be a sham to press freedom if they settle.
It would be a sham to press freedom. It's so interesting because I understand he's a public figure and the most talked about public figure, so the press has a lot more leeway. But does that mean you are allowed to lie? I mean, blatantly lie about a politician without consequence, knowing it is a lie? The answer is no, absolutely not. Because if you get caught in it and realize there is documentation, you knew exactly what you're doing and did it anyway, then you are going to face some serious consequences, especially when you're talking about an election. And Donald Trump makes a pretty good point here. The point being that this was an intentional act that was meant to hurt his election, his chances of becoming president of the United States. And that's a common thread with a lot of these traditional media that J.D. Vance was discussing, we were discussing. So for whatever it is, just like the lawsuit that the city of St. Louis had against the NFL, I would love to see this dragged out and let this get to discovery and let's see behind the scenes, because that would be even more damaging to CBS than whatever money they would pay Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think that's great. I would love to see it. And I think really too, I think the sticking point for CBS and the sticking point for Donald Trump isn't the $25 million that he's asking for. It's the $25 million plus an apology, because an apology then is an admission of guilt.
You have to admit you're wrong. You think they'll be able to do that? I don't know if they can.
I don't know if they can bring themselves to do it either.
No, it's going to be tough because they're infallible. You know, they're like the Pope, the news Pope.
Well,
we're CBS. We're the news Pope. So that's how they look at themselves. They look at themselves as the authority, infallible. They can't be wrong, can't be questioned. That's kind of their standpoint. That's the whole thing for them. There's a little bit of time left to vote in the poll if people wanted to go online, right? If you go to YouTube and the YouTube live chat poll, what's the question?
Was DOGE a success? And we got three options here for your answer. You got yes, a huge success, no, a total failure, or yes, but there's still more work to be done.
Okay. So do you know how many votes we have so far? Is it a lot, a little? I'm hoping we get a lot. That'd be nice.
About 168 so far. 169. Okay. It just ticked up. So,
all right, let's get up to 200 would be great. So if you haven't voted in that yet, let's do that before we give the results with Ethan coming up too. Two things I want to bring up after the break. One, you sent me a soap story. Soap. I mean, what you use to clean your body.
Is it a soap story?
Well,
yeah.
Is it something else? I guess we'll find out. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is how I got in trouble at work. Can I tell you a story? And I'll probably get in more trouble for bringing it up, but I want to bring it up anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you ever get in trouble for laughing at a coworker at an inappropriate time? It's not a good thing.
No, I haven't yet.
So, well, if you notice, if it's funny, it's funny to me. Even if it's inappropriate to laugh at it, if it's funny, it's funny. And sometimes you pay the price. And I'm going to tell you what happened to me as we get ready to wrap up the Annie Fry Show. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in on 97.1 FM Talk.
This is gonna be the best day of my life.
The Annie Fry Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
I want you to know that STS Armory in Pontoon Beach, Illinois is a Second Amendment supporters domain. When you are in Illinois and you want to purchase a firearm, if you're looking for a great place to buy ammunition, if you need to take a class, a lot of people will seek out STS Armory because they're the very best in conceal and carry education, those renewal courses. I took mine in November of last year, got my conceal and carry license renewed there, but you can take the initial classes also. Maybe you are right at the beginning and you just want basic education on having a firearm in your house or learning about how to fire it in a safe way, to store it in a secure way. The classes that you are going to have access to at STS Armory are second to none. They have ladies-only classes as well, and they have, safety, security classes that teach kids how to be responsible in a household that has firearms. 618-931-GUNS, 618-931-GUNS. Call and see what classes they have available today online at sts-armory.com.
Retirement statements just hit mailboxes, and for many, the shock is real. Some investors lost 20% or more in just the first quarter. If you're close to retirement, that's more than a dip. It's a danger. But here's what most advisors won't tell you. Gold was up over 30% during the same time. That's a 60% swing. And in retirement, that kind of gap can change everything. So compare your Q1 statement to gold's performance. Then call Noble Gold Investments. Noble Gold specializes in helping people protect what they've earned with real assets like gold and silver. If you're tired of watching your nest egg shrink, it may be time for a change. And right now, when you open a qualified account, you'll receive a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar. Compare and call 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. Or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-700-6898. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-700-6898 or biglou.com.
Gain peace of mind that your flooring and carpet installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michael's Flooring Outlet. They give all their clients attentive personal service, even bring toys for the kids of the household. It's a family-owned and operated business for 25 plus years. They make sure you make the right choice for your home. So if you have carpets or hard floors, you're going to be happy for years to come. 3 convenient locations in St. Charles County, 116 Main Street, in Old Town St. Peters at Mid Rivers and Highway 70, in West County on Olive, and the store in Darden Prairie. Michael's Flooring Outlet, igotfloor.com.
Today's YouTube live chat poll: was DOGE a success? Musk is he's leaving the White House, so we want to know, was DOGE a success? And we got 3 options for you. Yes, a huge success. No, a total failure. Or yes, but there's still more work to be done. The way you vote on this poll is you go to Annie's YouTube page, youtube.com/@AnnieFry, or you can just search it, F-R-E-Y, Annie Fry, and you'll see the live stream up there. Jump in the live stream. The poll should pop up, and you just click what's your vote. Vote in the poll, and then leave us a comment telling us why you voted the way you voted, and we might read your comment on air. The time is 2:49. This time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
Good afternoon. It's Mark Reardon. We are getting set for a Friday Reardon Roundtable as we take you into the weekend. Jane Duker will be on the panel. John Gaskin, our friend Gene Evans. Lots of topics to discuss. We get rolling right after Fox News at 3.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Manny Fry Show. Follow Annie on X at Annie Fry Show.
When I say I want it that way, but we
Nice. Ethan is on fire today with the music selections. You know what? He really does deserve to get his name in that intro, I think, for the Manny Fry
Damn
Show.
straight.
Oh, hi, Ethan.
Hi there, Ryan.
I think we need a couple more votes in this poll. I want to get that up to 200 votes. That'd be nice. We're close. So, again, if you're online and you haven't voted in the YouTube chat poll, Brad, what's it at?
It's what the number? We're at 184 votes, so we're
All right,
about
we're
16
close.
votes away.
About? About
Your
16?
math is good.
Yeah, my math, I'm not confident in my math, but Ryan says my math is good, so we're 16 votes away.
Well, I just
Right.
I'm vote 185 now. So there we
Okay.
go.
Okay, good. All right. Was DOGE a success? Go vote now. You want me to tell you how I got in trouble at work? You want to know this story?
Yes.
Or do you want to talk about soap? Because the soap story is great.
You're the
Well,
host,
I'll just
my
say-
friend. You pick.
Yeah.
I'll tell you very quickly how I got in trouble at work. So I have a friend of mine at work. He does traffic. His name's Jim. I'm going to call him by name. We have a good
Call him out.
relationship.
Set him out.
He comes in and he said, "Hey, Ryan, you're not going to believe it, but I've been chatting with David Montgomery. David Montgomery is the running back for the Detroit Lions. He is a professional NFL football player that would not be chatting with random people online, I would think." So I said, "What do you mean you've been chatting with David Montgomery?" He's like, "He's been sending me a message on Facebook." I'm like, "What kind of things are you talking about?" He's like, "I don't know, just stuff." I'm like, "God, you're getting scammed, Jim. Like they're going to ask you for money." The conversation is going to go like this. "Oh man, I really got to get a practice, but I got to get a new pair of shoes. Can you send me $400?" Like that's how this conversation is going to go. I guarantee it. And he's like, no. He's got money. He doesn't need money. He's just, we're becoming friends. I'm like, "Jim." I start laughing at him at this point. I'm like, "Jim, you're not a Detroit Lion. An NFL football player is not chatting with you for fun." So I bring someone else over. I said, "Hey, come over here. Come here. You got to hear this." Like I'm bringing other people in the office in. "Hey, Jim, tell him what you just told me." I'm getting in trouble because I'm making a spectacle of it laughing. Did I make a bad call? Should I have not laughed? I think this is hilarious.
Wait, you actually got in trouble over this?
No, I didn't. It's not like I got reprimanded from HR.
But people were like shaming you
They're
for
like, "Hey,
for this?
stop laughing at him."
Yeah, basically, people were like, "Oh, Jim, honey." Like the women were like putting their hands on his shoulder. "Oh, honey."
Sounds like you work with a bunch of Democrats.
I thought
Soft.
funny is funny. This is funny.
No, this is absolutely hilarious. These are the kinds of things like this exist so that we can laugh at them. That is the purpose of them.
Listen, and I will go as far as to say this. That little shame that he's feeling, that'll prevent him from getting scammed in the future.
He did feel some shame. Now, we did turn the table. We said, okay, now you have to ask them for money preemptively.
Yeah, they're the ones with the money.
Yeah. I say, "Jim, ask him, tell him, 'Hey, man, I'm a little short this week. Can you give me some cash?'" And I think the conversation ended there. The friendship ended at that point with David Montgomery. All right. Let's do this topic with the soap real quick because we'll get the poll question. Brad, you sent me this topic. Why are you sending me topics about stuff like soap?
Yeah, Brad.
So, are you guys familiar with Sydney Sweeney?
Of course I am.
Tell me about Sydney Sweeney, Ethan.
She's an actress
Mhm.
and she's very pretty.
Yes, hot stuff.
Yep, and she is widely known on the internet for having big boobs. Just calling it how I see it.
So if you talked about Sydney Sweeney, if you're trying to imagine what Sydney Sweeney looks like, I would say she's like the all-American girl, blonde hair,
sure,
you know, all the right curves, that sort of thing. And she partnered, I guess, with Dr. Squatch for a Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah. Yes.
And this ad that she had on the Super Bowl was her in a bathtub selling, and Dr. Squatch is a soap and men's product company.
Like bar soap or liquid soap?
Bar soap. I think they have liquid as well.
Okay.
But they're known for their bar soap.
Bar soap is their big thing. And she's like, she does this ad where she's in the bathtub, calls everybody dirty boys, and is trying to sell the soap. And so somebody on the internet did what the internet does and is like, yeah, but what about that bath water, though?
Wait, who said that?
The internet.
Degenerate people
the
on
internet,
the internet.
The internet wanted the bathwater.
Yes. And so she said, you kept asking about my bathwater after the Dr. Squatch ad, so we kept it.
Asking?
Yes.
Multiple people?
Yes.
Over time?
Yes. And she said, introducing Sydney's Bathwater Bliss, a very real limited edition soap made with my actual bathwater.
Wow.
This is the kind of thing that you just cannot make up.
This was announced yesterday, wasn't it?
Yes.
This is the B.
And the internet is going the internet is going insane. The post that I saw has on X has 61 million views on it. regarding this.
Jeez.
So they used her actual bath water, like in the mixture of the soap or something?
What they're saying.
Allegedly, this is a limited run.
5,000 bars being sold.
5,000 being sold, and you can win some bars, and you have to be 18 or older.
Of course.
I don't,
Why?
man.
No
I don't
words.
know.
No words.
Why?
This is where
Why
we
do you
are.
have to be 18 or older?
Well, I can't even
Naturally.
read the. I can
Naturally, Ryan.
I can't even read the description on air of what the smell of the
try.
soap is.
Oh.
Did you see what the smell is?
No,
there?
I didn't,
Look down
but-
where the emojis are at the bottom of that, and
These degenerates. Who's buying this? Like
the internet.
What do you
Yeah,
mean who's
it's
buying
weird.
this? Young dudes that think that Sydney Sweeney's hot and are really weird are buying this. That's who's buying this.
Yeah, some people think this is as close as
Listen,
I can ever
you're
get to
acting
her.
like you're surprised by this. I'm not. The internet is just a weird place, dude.
Yeah.
Man, I really should not be surprised, but I really am that there's a demand for this. Ugh.
So,
how much should one of these bars go for? Like, what's the?
That's going to be the question.
Yeah, we don't know yet. They
Because
haven't
like an auction.
There's going to be such a high demand. I
Well,
bet for
it's
these.
going to sell out like that, and then there's going to be an
it's so
aftermarket
gross.
for it, and we're going to, I don't know.
All right,
Oh, it's
well,
going to hit. The
stop
aftermarket's
grossing
going to
me
hit
out.
like crack.
All right, so let's go back to this YouTube live chat poll. Was Doge a success? Do we get to 200 votes?
We did.
Yeah.
206 votes. We made it there. You ready
You
for the
guys did
results
it.
of this?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, here we go. 206 votes on today's YouTube live chat poll. Was Doge a success? 7% say no, a total failure. 15% say yes, overall huge success. And an overwhelming majority, 78%, say yes, but there is still work to be done.
Yes,
To be done,
there
excuse me.
is.
That is your YouTube live chat poll.
Way to go, guys. This was fun. I'll be back again Monday filling in for Annie Fry. Hope to do it again. And I know we won't have a new intro by then, but in my heart, Ethan, you'll be in it.
I
Have a
appreciate
great
that,
weekend.
Ryan.
Great work, Brad. We'll see you soon on 97.1 FM Talk.
Have you been notified that your subsidy for Obamacare health insurance is going away? Well, you can leave now while you are still healthy and can qualify for much better individual plans. Greg Hammonds at greghammonds.com has been helping people get affordable health